Chapter 1682. That woman should have left him forever. Li Fan landed in the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. The water vapor on his body evaporated, but he felt a chill and he couldn't help but shiver. Whether it was the Azure Dragon Pagoda or the Vermilion Bird Pagoda, every time he went through them, it made Li Fan's heart ache. "How is it?" At this moment, a woman's voice sounded, echoing in the empty second floor of the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. "Do you feel the pain and bitterness in your heart?" Li Fan looked up and saw a woman sitting in front of him. She was dressed in a fiery red feather dress and sat on a carved phoenix throne. This woman was very cold. She didn't look like the passionate successor of the Vermilion Bird. Instead, she was like an ice mountain. Li Fan looked at her and was speechless for a long time. This woman. Isn't she the young Weining he met in the other pocket dimension? Are you surprised? It's me. Yang Weining glanced at Li Fan with a complicated look in her eyes. You and the other challenger have always been in my memory world. Why did you arrange such a game? Li Fan couldn't understand. Do you know what happened to the real Yang Weining? Yang Weining's voice became colder. She didn't meet the caring and gentle Wang Xiaoqing, nor did she meet the Liu Dashui who wanted to take her back. She stayed by Wang Xiaofu's side, but less than a year after she married him, Wang Xiaofu met another woman who returned to study abroad. Thus, Yang Weining was abandoned. In the end, Wang Xiaofu gave her to a famous military officer in exchange for a position and power in the government. But that was just the beginning of a nightmare. Yang Weining was traded here and there like a commodity. In the end, she fell ill and was kicked into the sea by an officer who was retreating from China because the ship was overweight. Yang Weining's voice was emotionless as she recounted all this. It was a blessing in disguise. She accidentally entered this Vermilion Bird Pagoda and began a new cultivation path under the guidance of the previous generation's successor. "I'm sorry, why are you apologizing?" Yang Weining tilted her head and looked at Li Fan. "It was that era that was wrong, not you. But I wasn't born in that era, and I couldn't protect you." Li Fan looked at Yang Weining. His feelings were also complicated. Although it was only a short half a month, he naturally developed feelings for Yang Weining in his heart after spending so much time with her and being intimate with her. "In any case, you passed." As Yang Weining spoke, she slowly stood up from the phoenix head throne. At the same time, she grabbed a vermilion bird-shaped gun. "All that's left is to fight. Come on. Can't we not fight?" "No." Yang Weining sneered. "You can't be taking that virtual world seriously, right? I am indeed Yang Weining, but not the Yang Weining you love. Right now, I am the successor of the Vermilion Bird. Since you are the challenger, you are my enemy." With that, Yang Weining raised the Vermilion Bird fire spear and fired a shot at Li Fan. Bang! A 1-meter-long golden-red flaming vermilion bird flapped its wings and flew towards Li Fan. Li Fan had no choice. Now was not the time to dawdle. Obtaining the power of the Vermilion Bird and opening the passage to the heavens beyond skies was a mission that he had to complete. Sorry. Li Fan had no choice but to kick the flaming Vermilion Bird into pieces. But with a loud boom, the huge force sent Li Fan flying more than 10 meters away. The power of the flaming Vermilion Bird was not a joke. "I have reminded you." Yang Weining looked at Li Fan, who was in a sorry state, and emphasized, "I am not Yang Weining. I am the successor of the Vermilion Bird. You have the blood of the dragon race in your body. We are enemies. Let's fight." With that, Yang Weining raised the gun again and fired a shot at Li Fan. An even larger fire vermilion bird, 2 to 3 meters long, flew towards Li Fan with scorching flames around its body. Tornado scattered clouds. Li Fan swept his leg and used the dragon subduing sword technique again. A crescent moon ripple flew out and struck the flaming vermilion bird. Rumble. The flaming vermilion bird was split into 2 halves in the air and then exploded into scattered flames. Not bad. Yang Weining nodded. Holding the gun, she stood on the head of the vermilion bird statue and looked down at Li Fan. "As expected of the blood of the dragon race. But it is a pity that you appeared too late." With that, the eyes of the vermilion bird statue under Yang Weining's feet suddenly lit up. Then, it flew up into the air with Yang Weining and aimed at Li Fan below. Flaming triple strike. Yang Weining fired 3 shots in a row. 3 flaming vermilion birds flew out and pounced at Li Fan from 3 different directions. But Li Fan did not retreat this time. He stood there and let the 3 flaming vermilion birds hit him. Boom, boom, boom. Li Fan's body slid back a meter, but this time, he was unscathed. At this moment, Li Fan's skin was glowing with a bronze light. Just before entering the Vermilion Bird Pagoda, Li Fan had comprehended a new technique. The current Li Fan could already use his true dragon golden body in every part of his body. Although it could not compare to the defensive prowess of the invincible golden body, it was not inferior by much. The flaming vermilion bird's attack was powerful. If it was 2 days ago, it might have posed some threat to Li Fan. But now, Li Fan did not care. He also tested the defensive prowess of the true dragon golden body, and it was as good as he had imagined. You have already begun to possess the powerful body of the dragon race. Yang Weining looked at Li Fan and said, "This is not the body of the dragon race. This is the martial art that I have cultivated." Li Fan emphasized, "I have lived in China for over 100 years. Naturally, I know what martial art is." Yang Weining reminded Li Fan, "But you have the genes of a dragon. This is because of your powerful body, which is why it can contain such majestic energy. Do you think that any martial artist can hide such a huge amount of energy in every cell of their body?" Li Fan was a little depressed. Could it be that if he was not human, he could not cultivate to a higher level? Whether it is you, Martial Emperor, or Jiang Feng, the reason why you can break through the limits of humans is because you have paid a price that surpasses humans. Yang Weining reminded Li Fan, "For example, you have absorbed the genes of a dragon. For example, Jiang Feng, he obtained the inheritance of the Azura Dao and paid the price of his future lifespan. And Martial Emperor, this man can be considered the most orthodox because he cultivated the true immortal art. This so-called immortal art can allow humans to change their bodies. So no matter which one it is, if humans want to cultivate to the realm of immortals, they must break through the limits of humans. You think it is unfair. But this is the truth." Chapter 1683. Hearing Vermilion Bird's words, Li Fan's emotions turned slightly complicated. Is there really a limit to humans? Li Fan suddenly thinks of a woman and his heart jolts as he immediately refutes Vermilion Bird. "I know a woman whose strength has almost reached the lower immortal stage. You are talking about your fiancée Murongying, right? Although Vermilion Bird's successor is in the pagoda, she seems to know a lot about the outside world. She actually does not have that much strength. She is only so powerful because of the yin-yang dragon phoenix sword that she created with you. You really know a lot." Li Fan is also unable to defend himself. Why is this Vermilion Bird's successor like a Jianghu know-it-all? I am really envious of the love between the two of you. Yang Weining looks at Li Fan, but no matter what kind of love it is, in the end, the harvest is only a kind of bitterness, isn't it? With that, she sets up her gun again and aims at Li Fan. "Watch me pierce through your steel body." Yang Weining's gun muzzle is filled with scarlet flames. In an instant, an almost golden vermilion bird suddenly flies out and pounces towards Li Fan. Li Fan is still standing there with his arms crossed, allowing the vermilion bird to devour his body. Boom, boom, boom. A powerful explosion sets off and the flames shoot up high, directly burning to the top of the pagoda. But when the flames dissipate, Li Fan is still standing there. Even his hair is not burnt. He is still crossing his arms and looking at Yang Weining. "Your attack power is still not enough." Li Fan says, "Weining, your hands are only suitable for playing the zither, not shooting." "Less nonsense." Yang Weining suddenly reprimands, "Then try and take this shot of mine." As Yang Weining speaks, the red light on her body suddenly becomes even more blazing and all of it converges at one point. Very quickly, the gun lights up with a dazzling radiance. This kind of radiance even makes Li Fan feel threatened. "Quickly stop." Li Fan shouts because he feels that Yang Weining is using her life to release this attack. "Why did you have to do this? Can't we resolve this peacefully? How can you still be so naive?" Yang Weining's eyes flashed with a red light. I told you long ago, you can't. As she spoke, a completely golden vermilion bird flew out from Yang Weining's gun. This vermilion bird was only a meter long, but the power gathered on it was not to be underestimated. Li Fan didn't dare to use his body to face it head-on because Miss White Tiger had already reminded him that this vermilion bird was the same as the White Tiger divine bow. It would directly harm his soul. He could only retreat, but the vermilion bird seemed to have its eyes on him and flew after him. No matter where Li Fan went, the vermilion bird followed him like a shadow. Li Fan had no choice but to stop. At the same time, he took a step forward and raised his fist. Lightning Supreme Dragon Fist. With a bang, the air seemed to be squeezed. That golden vermilion bird was directly smashed into pieces by this punch, and on Yang Weining's chest, there was also a fist print that was neither big nor small, causing her chest to cave in. Fart. Yang Weining spat out a large mouthful of blood. Her body seemed to have lost its center of gravity as she fell from the stone vermilion bird and fell down the tower. Li Fan hurriedly jumped up and held her in his arms. Weining, why are you so silly? Li Fan looked at Yang Weining in his arms. The coldness on her face finally dissipated, leaving only endless warmth. Shouting, Yang Weining stretched out her hand and gently stroked Li Fan's cheek. My lifespan has long come to an end. I won't be able to linger on here for long. I'm already satisfied when I wait for you. Didn't you not remember me? Why do you still call me Shouting? Li Fan felt his heart skip a beat. Although it's just an illusion. You really entered my memory. Yang Weining's eyes were filled with satisfaction. You don't have to be sad. Weining should have died 100 years ago. Being able to get to know you means that Weining didn't live in vain. Don't say silly things. Let me heal you. Li Fan fed Yang Weining a few rejuvenation pills and desperately channeled vital energy into her. However, Yang Weining coughed out the pills and there was still blood. When the vital energy entered Yang Weining's body, it was like a clay ox entering the sea, disappearing completely in the blink of an eye. It's useless. My lifespan has come to an end. There's nothing I can do. Yang Weining gave Li Fan a sweet smile. Thank you. I was really happy for that half a month. As soon as she finished speaking, Li Fan felt the weight in his arms lighten. Yang Weining's body had already turned into spots of red light and disappeared from the vermilion bird tower. And a red mark was also drawn into the space between Li Fan's eyebrows. No. Li Fan's heart ached terribly. He heavily smashed his fists on the ground, causing the entire vermilion bird tower to tremble. You've already obtained the power of the vermilion bird. The martial emperor had just left the small world and flew in front of Li Fan. Return the power of the vermilion bird to me. The martial emperor's body was wrapped in golden dragon armor and his body suddenly expanded to more than 4 meters. He activated his Dharma body and with the power of a heavenly immortal, he pounced towards Li Fan. I'll return your mother. Li Fan's body also suddenly grew to more than 3 meters tall, and he let out a heavy roar. The martial emperor used the yellow emperor riding dragon and his right palm ruthlessly landed on Li Fan's chest. Bam! Qi exploded behind Li Fan, but he did not move. He directly reached out with both hands and grabbed the martial emperor's shoulder. Die! Li Fan grabbed the martial emperor and locked his body in place. Then, with a flying knee, he heavily landed on the martial emperor's chest. The martial emperor immediately spat out a mouthful of golden blood. He was stunned by the attack, and Li Fan threw him up. Then, his legs continuously spun and he directly kicked the martial emperor until he finally smashed into the ground. His head buzzed and his vision turned pitch black. Die, die. Li Fan kicked the martial emperor up again and kicked him into the vermilion bird pagoda's wall. Then, it struck his body, and followed with his strongest fist. Lightning Supreme Dragon Fist. Dawn. A fist imprint appeared on the martial emperor's chest, and this sturdy vermilion bird pagoda was actually pierced through. The martial emperor's face was bruised and swollen as he fell out and heavily smashed into the sea. He didn't even dare to go back to look for Li Fan and directly sneaked away from the water. How did Li Fan suddenly become so strong? Did he take drugs? The martial emperor thought differently, but Li Fan also couldn't figure it out. He howled in the Vermilion Bird Pagoda for a long time. The Vermilion Bird Pagoda trembled unceasingly. The earth shook and the mountains shook, unable to calm down for a long time. After this continued for more than 10 minutes, Li Fan finally calmed down a little. However, he sat on the ground in a daze. It was unknown when Dragon Girl had entered the pagoda and was standing beside him, but she didn't dare to come forward to persuade him. After knowing Li Fan for so long, this was the first time she saw Li Fan having such a huge emotional fluctuation. What exactly happened? Chapter 1684. The Vermilion Bird was about 4 meters long. She landed beside Li Fan and gently rubbed Li Fan's cheek with her beak. Whinnying. Li Fan was a little shocked. He reached out and touched the feathers on the Vermilion Bird's head. It was a very warm and familiar feeling. Not only was it familiar, but it was also a kind of intimacy. It looks like the original Vermilion Bird's soul has long dissipated. Missy White Tiger flew out and stood beside Li Fan. She reached out and gently stroked the Vermilion Bird's feathers as she sighed. Therefore, Yang Weining replaced the original soul and became the sacred Vermilion Bird soul. Her companion from long ago was no longer around. This made White Tiger sigh. For Yang Weining to be able to stay by your side, it can be considered fate. However, her dharmic powers are still too weak and she can't transform into human form. I can enlighten her a little and teach her the ability to simplify her form. Thank you, Sister White Tiger. Li Fan hurriedly thanked her. There's no need to thank me. Just treat it as fate. As Missy White Tiger spoke, she extended her finger and tapped the Vermilion Bird's forehead. The Vermilion Bird let out a melodious cry that sounded like Yang Weining's zither. Her body gradually shrank and soon turned into the size of a parrot. She landed on Li Fan's shoulder and combed her beautiful feathers. The 4 sages have been activated, right? Dragon Lady heaved a sigh of relief when she saw Li Fan's relieved expression. She took the initiative to raise a topic to distract Li Fan. Are you heading to heavens beyond? Yes. Li Fan nodded. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. The moment Li Fan said that, the Vermilion Bird on his shoulder suddenly flapped its wings and flew up. Soon, it flew to a stone door in front of them and landed on it. It chirped at Li Fan. 4 sacred gates. Missy White Tiger's gaze landed on the 3-meter-tall stone door and she could not help but sigh. Every pagoda has such a door. Look, there are our carvings on it. Sure enough, there were carvings of 4 sacred beasts on the stone door, and each one was vivid and lifelike. What exactly is the sky beyond heaven like? None of us have seen it before. Ms. White Tiger reminded Li Fan, be careful. The 3 of us will do our best to protect you. Yes, it's either success or death for this mission. Li Fan had already made up his mind. After experiencing 2 heart-wrenching sanctum cultivation, he was mentally and physically exhausted. All he wanted was to end this endless battle as soon as possible. All right, I wish you success. As Miss White Tiger spoke, she glanced at Vermilion Bird. The Vermilion Bird returned to its original form and landed on the southern side of the stone gate. As for Miss White Tiger, she transformed into a big white tiger and landed on the west side. Only one holy beast could open the stone door, but it would take a bit more time. With 2 holy beasts around, the time it took to open the door was much faster. The 2 holy beasts injected their energy into the stone door, and the 9-tailed divine fox also appeared. It spat out its pass and imprinted it on the top of the stone door. After more than 10 minutes, the stone door finally trembled and slowly opened. An unknown space was behind the stone door. Dragon Lady, when I'm not around, look after the 7 Knights Villa for me, Li Fan said to Dragon Lady. Following that, the 2 holy beasts flew back. One returned to Li Fan's body, and the other landed on his shoulder and followed him through the door. The sky beyond heaven, I'm here. Li Fan felt his body being pulled up, and there was a feeling of ascension. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived at another plane. In front of him was a vast space, and Li Fan just happened to land on a cliff. Below the cliff was a row of towns. The town's architectural style was ancient, and it had a very ancient aura. According to the information that Li Fan obtained from Hua, the sky beyond heaven was not only filled with warlike expert. Many of the remaining million or so people were just ordinary celestial citizens. Although these celestial citizens did not know any immortal techniques, their bodies were much stronger than ordinary humans on Earth. Because they did not cultivate immortal techniques, these celestial citizens needed to work if they wanted to live longer. In the sky beyond heaven, there was only one set of currency, and that was the immortal crystal. This immortal crystal had no other use, and its only effect was to be absorbed and increase one's lifespan. One immortal crystal could increase one's lifespan by 1 year, and immortal crystals were produced by the strongest celestial master in the past. After the celestial master exhausted his power and brought everyone to the sky beyond heaven, he fell into a deep sleep. The place where he was turned into a giant tree, and immortal crystals would be produced every day. The 8 heaven immortals were responsible for collecting immortal crystals and distributing them. They were distributed to the exalted immortals, who each had their own territory in the sky beyond heaven. They appointed many lower immortal officials, and then let the officials distribute the immortal crystals according to the workload of the townspeople. For thousands of years, the sky beyond heaven had relied on this method to survive. It looks like a very peaceful place. Li Fan observed the small town below and couldn't help but laugh. The people of the sky beyond heaven are quite good, bringing disaster to Earth, but they are living a carefree life. Li Fan secretly snuck into the town, stole clothes from a family's drying window, and changed into them. In the sky beyond heaven, the style of clothes was a bit similar to that of the Han dynasty. After Li Fan put it on, he felt that it was very loose, the material was also quite unique, and it was quite comfortable to wear. He walked on the streets, and sure enough, no one recognized him as an earthling. Although Li Fan was a little unfamiliar, there were a few towns in the sky beyond heaven, and they all treated Li Fan as someone from the other towns. The main thing was that no one from the sky beyond heaven would believe that an earthling had successfully sneaked in. Li Fan's goal was to destroy them from within the sky beyond heaven, so he had to think of a way to enter the upper echelons of the sky beyond heaven. Conscription. Li Fan saw some conscription notices pasted on the walls and couldn't help but be stunned. Coincidentally, there was a merchant selling immortal pets, so Li Fan asked him about it. "Little brother, you're from the other towns, right?" Hearing Li Fan's question, the merchant chuckled. He stroked his beard and said, "Recently, our King of Yu and King Ku have been fighting. Because of a lack of manpower, the King of Yu has decided to recruit soldiers and train guards to determine the victor. The population of our sky beyond heaven is already small, why are we still fighting? Hehe, looks like the town you live in should be a place that stands aloof from worldly affairs." The merchant looked at Li Fan enviously, and then explained, "The civil war in the sky beyond heaven relies on Dharmakaya. If the Dharmakaya is destroyed, it will take 10 days to half a month to recover. So as long as the opponent's Dharmakaya is destroyed, it will be considered a complete victory." "Oh, I understand." Li Fan thought to himself that this was a good idea. He reached out, removed a list from the wall, and stuffed it into his sleeve. "Good lad, do you want to join the army too?" Chapter 1685. After chatting with the merchant for a while, Li Fan got to know more information. It turns out that sky beyond sky often has this kind of civil war. It is said that it is a war started by the high immortals who have been conferred the title of Marquis in order to fight for resources and population. And the 8 sky immortals of sky beyond sky have tacitly agreed to this kind of war. Only war can nurture the soldiers of sky beyond sky and make them stronger. "Since you are going to recruit soldiers, why don't you buy an immortal pet from me?" The merchant points to the table tennis ball-sized amber in front of him. "These are all low-grade immortal pets that can help you in battle. Immortal pets are a unique type of spiritual beast in sky beyond sky. They are captured by hunters and then sealed in special amber. Every sky beyond sky warrior can have one immortal pet as their combat power. These immortal pets are divided into 3 grades, low, mid and high." Li Fan shakes his head. The merchant hurriedly says, "Are you not satisfied?" "It's all right, I still have a mid-grade immortal pet here." Li Fan shakes his head again. "Could it be Young master, you want a high-grade immortal pet? No, I don't have money. Li Fan's words make the merchant speechless. Li Fan has just arrived at Sky Beyond Sky, how could he have any immortal crystals? It's all right. Take this. The merchant waves his hand, then he picks up a red amber and passes it to Li Fan. Take this. I don't have money, I'll let you use it first. The merchant pats his chest. You are fighting for our king, you cannot go into battle empty-handed. This is a low-grade immortal pet. Although it is not very good, it is at least a form of combat power for you. In the future, when you receive your salary, you can just give me the money. Thank you. Li Fan was a little surprised. The people here were honest, and they were all quite loyal. Could it be that this king Yu has some unique charm? There are 49 high immortals in Sky Beyond Sky, and similarly, there are 49 fiefdoms. The population and resources of each fiefdom are different. In order to strengthen their fiefs, the 49 feudal vassals would naturally often wage war against each other. Li Fan asked the merchants again and heard that this king of Yu was a good person. He treated the people of his fief very well and had low taxes, so he was very loved by the people. I used to be from the Green Mountains, and the king of the Green Mountains is really… Let's not talk about it. Later, I moved my family to Yu City and lived a prosperous life. Thanks to King Yu's blessings, I should return the favor. The merchant chatted with Li Fan for a while longer. Go, little brother. I wish you luck in martial arts. The merchant gave Li Fan an encouraging look. Li Fan was slightly moved. If everyone in the realm beyond Avalon was like this, then it would be a very difficult opponent to deal with. No matter what, let's go in and take a look first. Li Fan took the low-grade immortal pet the merchant gave him and headed towards the town's recruitment office. On the way, Li Fan did not forget to look around. Memorize every piece of information here. The realm beyond Avalon was indeed a very special place. Along the way, Li Fan felt that most of the people here were very simple, unlike the invaders who went on expeditions to Earth like Hua and Yu. Here to recruit soldiers? At the recruitment office was a centurion wearing black armor. He glanced at Li Fan and frowned. I haven't seen you before, where are you from? Replying to Lord, this lowly one came from the Green Mountains. Li Fan immediately replied, our Green Mountains king is tyrannical, so I traveled all the way to our Yu city. Because I just arrived here, I don't have much of a livelihood. I heard that the king of Yu is recruiting soldiers, so this lowly one came. Oh, a person from the Green Mountains, no wonder. The centurion suddenly realized. Li Fan muttered in his heart, what kind of ruler of the Green Mountains is, it seems like everyone doesn't like him. As long as you are willing to fight for my lord, you are a citizen of my Yu state. The centurion continued, he picked up a booklet, what's your name? Li Dazhuang. Li Fan casually made up a name. The people of the Green Mountains are really uncultured, Dazhuang. The centurion curled his lips, then with a big wave of his pen, he registered Li Fan's name on it. All right, take this wooden sign and report back tomorrow. Yes. Li Fan held the wooden sign with his name written on it, but in his heart, where should he stay tonight? He really didn't have a dime when he came to this place. He also had to hurry up and finish the recruitment. Don't let Martial Emperor see him. Martial Emperor knew him too well. No matter how he changed his bones, he would be instantly recognized by Martial Emperor. Wait, you don't seem to have a place to stay. The centurion suddenly stopped Li Fan. Forget it, anyway, there are not many people signing up this time, let's call it a day. Can I? Li Fan was a little surprised. Can I call it a day early? To be honest, I've been waiting here for 10 days, you're the third to come to the recruitment. The centurion shrugged his shoulders, after all, no one likes to be a soldier. This job is too hard. The ordinary people of the sky beyond were not belligerent, their personalities were very gentle. This, Li Fan had already seen on the way here. Our king of Yu used to have a 100-man team under him. Because of the war, he wanted to recruit one more. But in the past 4 months, I've only recruited about 30 people. That's already pretty good. Li Fan was a little speechless, recruited about 30 people in 4 months, and a duke only had a 100-man team under him. The combat power of the sky beyond was indeed a little lacking. However, the quality of the soldiers is not the quantity. The centurion didn't know who he was comforting, just like your Green Mountains, although you have a huge army of 10,000 people. But what's the use? Most of them are forcibly recruited from the people, their combat power is low. And this kind of behavior, Lord Heaven Immortal will definitely punish them. No wonder so many people escaped from the Green Mountains. It turned out that the dukes like to force the big guys into servitude. The most capable of fighting is still White City. The centurion didn't know that in the process of chatting, he had unwittingly leaked information to Li Fan. The people of that place are swift and fierce. Almost all of them are soldiers. Their army is really elite. I'm afraid that in the future expeditionary army, they will probably be the main force. Expeditionary army? Li Fan listened blankly. To where expeditionary army? Naturally to the lower realm. The centurion was a soldier after all. When he said this, his eyes became somewhat fanatical. Isn't it said that if we go to the lower realm, we will develop feelings with humans? Li Fan couldn't help but ask, once we have children with humans, it will be our doomsday. So we have to choose an expeditionary army. The centurion said, this expeditionary army only has men, and all of them will be castrated. Heh! Li Fan's jaw almost dropped, so it was an army of eunuchs. As far as he knew, although the people of the sky beyond were unable to give birth, it didn't stop them from having sex. Many people chose to dual cultivate. The effect was even stronger. Chapter 1686. Li Fan did not know which immoral person came up with this idea. An army of eunuchs. Even if the true immortal mantra could strengthen the body, it did not seem to be able to replenish the life below. This. Lord Centurion, do you want to join the expeditionary army? What a joke. Who wants to join the expeditionary army? The centurion shook his head like a rattle drum. I want to find a suitable woman for dual cultivation. Li Fan was slightly comforted. It seemed that this method was indeed immoral. Not many people in the realm beyond Avalon would be willing to do this. Come to think of it, we will not force them. But some feudal vassals may not necessarily do so. For example, it is possible for Qingqiu to create a group of eunuchs. The centurion's words made Li Fan fall into deep thought again. Indeed, in order to please the higher-ups, these feudal vassals could forcibly create an army of eunuchs. The number did not need to be large. Just 10,000 people would be enough to make Earth suffer. There were a total of 1 million people in the realm beyond Avalon. To make 1% of them into eunuchs was indeed immoral. Even Jiang Feng would not be able to think of such a method. Alright, this is not something we should be thinking about. The centurion waved his hand. No matter what, we will have to go to the lower realm sooner or later. This piece of land will probably not last much longer. It should not be too long before the collapse of the realm beyond Avalon. Otherwise, those people in the realm beyond Avalon would not be so anxious. Lord, have we not thought of coexisting peacefully with humans? I also want to. The centurion curled his lips. But humans are only lowly peasants. How can we live with these pests? After thousands of years of brainwashing, these people's thoughts were already deeply ingrained. Li Fan let out a long sigh. They were kind to their own people, but they did not have the slightest mercy to humans. To them, humans were no different from ants. Especially when these ants could cause the extinction of their entire race. How could they try to coexist peacefully? Alright, we are almost at the main camp. The centurion pointed forward. Follow me. From today onwards, you are my soldier. In front of them was an army camp. Although it was called a camp, it was actually not that big. After all, there weren't many soldiers, so the camp didn't need to take up so much space. The centurion led Li Fan into the camp, and they just so happened to see another centurion leading a few decurions out of the camp. Sun Quan, where are you going? The centurion frowned and looked at him. How can you leave the camp without orders? There's nothing going on in the camp. I'll take a few brothers out for a drink. The centurion called Sun Quan yawned. What's wrong? Are the conscription back? It's a big crime to leave your post without permission. How dare you take them out for a drink? Li Fan's centurion was furious. Sun Quan, do you still have the bearing of a centurion? Qian Ping, you can't even recruit soldiers. How can you say that about me? Sun Quan sneered, and a few people beside him laughed at Centurion Qian Ping. Qian Ping's face turned red. We're talking about military rules. You're not the one who set the military rules. If you're unhappy, let the general deal with me. Sun Quan was disdainful. He did not even put his comrade of the same rank in his heart. Brothers, ignore him. He's just a clown. Sun Quan pushed Qian Ping's shoulder away and walked out with a few decurions. Sigh. Qian Ping sighed. Don't learn from that person. He's just a scum. Li Fan felt a little relieved. Seems like the army of heavens beyond Avalon was not as united as a piece of iron. In the future, you'll be a soldier of U City. Your monthly salary is 10 immortal crystals. MN, it's not a lot. That's why no one is willing to be a soldier. However, only we, the soldiers, can protect the peace of the entire U City. Qian Ping still had the faith of a soldier. When you become a decurion, you'll be able to get 20 immortal crystals a month. Qian Ping did not mention anything about becoming a centurion. It was probably true. 2 centurions were already enough, not to mention one more. Tomorrow, the general will come and take a look at you new soldiers. At that time, perform well. In front is your camp. You'll be staying there. In a while, take your token and go to the military officer to get a set of military uniform. Also, before afternoon, you must report to the military officer. He will impart the true immortal arts to you. Understood. Li Fan was still muttering in his heart. Can I learn the complete true immortal arts just like that? However, he did not dare to learn it. If the people of heavens beyond Avalon learned the true immortal arts, they would lose the fertility of their own race. They even changed it a little and let the people of Earth learn it. It would directly cut off their descendants. This was practically a set of Bishia sword technique. Li Fan said that he did not want to learn this thing. Qian Ping clearly had his own matters to attend to. After sending Li Fan to the camp, he shouted towards the inside before turning around and leaving. Respectfully sending off my lord. A 2-meter-tall burly man stood at the entrance of the camp and saluted Qian Ping. This man was also wearing a black armor. However, it looked a little cruder than Qian Ping's. He was a decurion and should be Li Fan's superior. Newbie, report your name, Li Dazhuang. What Li Dazhuang? From now on, you will be called Weak Chicken. The decurion shouted at Li Fan, trying to intimidate him. Yes, sir. Li Fan knew this very well. He immediately agreed respectfully. This caused the decurion to be stunned. He had wanted to take the opportunity to teach this troublemaker a lesson. He did not expect this kid in front of him to have no temper at all. Could this kind of guy with no temper be a soldier? Weak chicken, hurry up and get in here. Are you standing guard outside? Yes. Li Fan immediately walked into the camp. There were 2 rows of bunks. Some soldiers were sitting on the bunks, playing pai gao. Li Fan was a little speechless. How did this look like a camp? They were either out drinking or playing pai gao. It seemed like the fighting atmosphere here was really bad. Qian Ping's subordinates were probably also newbies. They probably did not have any military discipline. Head, hurry up and play. Seeing the decurion enter, these people shouted impolitely as usual. What? All of you, stand up. In order to establish his authority, the decurion could only bite the bullet and shout. Aya, head, stop joking. My pai gao is just right. That's right. Hurry up and play with us. Stand up. The decurion's face turned green as he shouted again. Everyone turned around and saw that the decurion was really angry. They immediately threw down the pai gao and jumped off the bunks, forming a row. So there's a newbie. Sigh, head is going to start again, these people whispered among themselves. The decurion glared at them. Did I allow you to speak? All of you, shut up. Chapter 1687. The decurion's reprimand made the new soldiers behave themselves. Don't think that I'm doing this on a whim. Let me tell you, the general will be here for an inspection tomorrow. Look at all of you, you're still playing cards. Do you all want to go to the small black room tomorrow? Don't, sir. We won't dare to do this again. Yes, we will listen to you, sir. We will maintain strict military discipline. When these people heard that they were going to be locked up in the small black room, they all begged for mercy. These celestial people's physique far surpassed that of ordinary people. Even if they were beaten or punished, they would recover very quickly. It wouldn't hurt their muscles or bones, so it wouldn't be a punishment. Therefore, the punishment method of Beyond Avalon was to lock people up, commonly known as the small black room. No matter how long you could live, you would all be thrown into the black room. Once you were inside, there would be no daylight, and time would feel like years. The longer you lived, the more pain you would feel. This is the new soldier, Li Dazhuang. From today onwards, he will be our comrade in arms, a brother. The Decurion pointed to the bed. You will sleep there. That blanket is your only lover. Hug it tightly at night. Of course, if you have any special preferences, the men here can also satisfy you. The new soldiers all laughed loudly, but Li Fan didn't mind. It was the same as the military anyway. Since you're here, I'll give you a killing blow to sharpen your temper first. There are a total of 38 people in our 100-man team. You're the 38th. From today onwards, don't call yourself Li Sanba, remember. Li Fan was finally speechless. Damn it, he was still playing this game with him. However, the Decurion probably didn't know the meaning of Sanba. It was a modern term, so it was impossible for Beyond Avalon to know. Number 38, because you're the last to arrive, all the clothes here will be washed by you. The Decurion continued to assign tasks to Li Fan. If you mess up the clothes, you'll be locked up in the small black room. Yes. What else could Li Fan say? He could only endure it for now. He came to the military to hide, not to act like a tyrant. Moreover, Li Fan also wanted to know what level the so-called strength of the army was. What was the combat power of the ordinary soldiers here? Immortal slave, lower immortal? Also, you don't have to look for a military official today. I'll personally teach you the military's cultivation method. The Decurion said. Hey! But the Centurion asked me to report to the military officer. Who told you to talk back? The Decurion glared at Li Fan and said awkwardly, that bastard went out for a drink. Anyway, it's the same if I teach you. You're so lucky, brat. That's right. The Decurion is the strongest among us. It is said that his strength is close to that of a lower immortal. Listening to the words of these soldiers, Li Fan had some idea. So that's how it is. Seems like the strength of an ordinary soldier is above that of an immortal slave. Hua had said before that almost all the grandmasters were dead or injured, and he was not lying when he said it. Even exalted immortals could be conferred the title of Marquis here. One could imagine their combat power. Wang come out and demonstrate the military's kung fu to him. The Decurion pointed at a fat man, and the fat man immediately ran out. All right, sir. I promise to do my best. 38. Watch carefully. The fat man was very respectful to the Decurion, but he glared at Li Fan. It was obvious how deep-rooted the hierarchy was in the Outland. Avatar battle spirit. The fat man half-squatted and shouted. Following that, his body surged with golden light. Countless golden lights flew out of his body and gathered in front of him. Soon, a 2-meter-tall battle spirit stood there. The black armor on the fat man's body lit up, and in an instant, the battle spirit was also covered in black armor. Take your weapon. The Decurion took out a 3-meter-long spear from the shelf beside him and threw it to the fat man. The battle spirit controlled by the fat man immediately reached out and caught the spear. Then, it swung it in a circle and finally swept it at Li Fan. Li Fan seemed to be very afraid. He quickly took 2 steps back and then staggered and fell to the ground. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. The Decurion had also received the effect he wanted. He nodded in satisfaction and crossed his arms as he said to Li Fan, 38, do you see that? 38, did you see that? This is the power of our army. Battle spirit. Wang demonstrate again. Yes. Wang had wanted to control the battle spirit to give Li Fan another show of strength. Who knew that his battle spirit's legs would suddenly go soft? Then, it fell to the ground and shattered. With a clang, the spear fell and smashed into the fat man's foot, causing him to howl in pain. Ha 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 ha. Everyone laughed even more happily, but the Decurion felt a little embarrassed. Sure enough, a recruit was a recruit. His control over his battle spirit was too poor. Next time, come back after your battle spirit's leg is healed. The Decurion kicked the fat man away angrily and released his battle spirit. The golden light on his body and the black light flashed together. Soon, a 2-meter-tall, 3-meter-wide black-armored battle spirit slowly walked out of the void and stood in front of Li Fan. It was different from the fat man's battle spirit. The Decurion's battle spirit was filled with deterrence and a faint sense of oppression. Do you see it? This is a battle spirit. The Decurion said loudly, learn it and you will have the qualifications to become a true soldier. Yes. Li Fan roughly understood that this battle spirit was a simplified method of operating an avatar. This way, even a contestant with the strength of an immortal slave could smoothly release their avatar. They could control their avatar to fight from a certain distance. This way, they wouldn't hurt their main body. Your avatar is very important. Don't think that everything will be fine even if it's destroyed. The Decurion seemed to see through Li Fan's thoughts. Once your avatar is destroyed, you might be bedridden for half a month. At that time, you will have lost the battle and lost the honor of the king of you. I will work hard in my cultivation. As Li Fan said this, he muttered in his heart. What should he do to fool these people and make them think that his energy body was a battle spirit? Alright, this is the cultivation technique. Take a look. The Decurion threw a silk handkerchief filled with words to Li Fan. Practice it today and report to me tomorrow. Alright, go to the martial arts field to practice. You will stay in the martial arts field today. Yes. Li Fan didn't object. When it came to cultivation, the quieter the better. This place was filled with all kinds of people. How could he cultivate in peace? Li Fan left the barracks and went to the logistics department to get a simple black military armor and a grey military uniform. He put them on and went to the empty martial arts field alone. Chapter 1688. Li Fan would definitely not learn a perfected immortal art that could make a person impotent. Moreover, after practicing it, his energy could only be released externally. This was absolutely not possible. Li Fan's inner strength was trained to the bone, so it could not be used externally. If that was the case, it would greatly weaken his strength. Li Fan was a pure martial artist. He was different from the martial emperor, who could change his banner halfway through the battle. If it's just the release of energy, Li Fan stood on the martial arts field. Since there was no one around, he might as well let go of this matter. He stretched out his hand and released his inner strength above his palm, forming a milky white energy ball. If it was just the release of energy, he could still do it. However, it was still very difficult to condense the energy into the form of the Dharma body battle spirit. The Dharma body battle spirit that the fatty released was almost equivalent to an avatar of the fatty. His avatar was still left in the Li Clan island in the mortal realm, overseeing the island for him. Then he would try to create another avatar. If it was Murong Ying, she would definitely be very relaxed. Turning the void into reality was indeed enviable. Fuck, I don't believe that I can't release a second avatar. Li Fan vaguely remembered that someone in the pugilistic world had vaguely said that there was once someone who could release 2 avatars at once. It had already surpassed the avatar body and should be called the 3 pure ones. Since someone had done it before, why couldn't he? Li Fan thought to himself. The reason why he could cultivate an avatar was completely because he had unintentionally cultivated a second Dantian. Could it be that he had to open up a third Dantian? That was impossible. His Dantian was already gone, and now only a Taiji diagram was left. It was impossible to open up a third Dantian with a Taiji diagram. It's not like there's no way. Miss White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's ear. You can use the power of the vermilion bird. Vermilion bird? Li Fan was puzzled. He did not know much about the vermilion bird's abilities. At this time, the little vermilion bird suddenly flew out of the forest and landed lightly on Li Fan's shoulder. Then, it began to comb its feathers. One of the vermilion bird's abilities is to transform. As long as you pour your strength into her body, she will be able to condense a so-called Dharmakaya battle spirit for you. Let Wanning fight for me. How can this be? Li Fan shook his head. I can't bear to let her go to the battlefield. However, the vermilion bird grew anxious. It flew down and circled around Li Fan, constantly flapping its wings as if protesting something. She said she could. She was happy to fight for you. RRR, where's my gentle Wanning? How come she's become a militant now? Li Fan was speechless. He was a little unwilling to let young Wanning fight for him. Don't worry, the vermilion bird is also known as the immortal bird. Ms. White Tiger reminded Li Fan. As long as you, the host, are still alive, she can rely on the fire of life in your body to be reborn. It's more or less a comfort. Only then did Li Fan agree. He followed Ms. White Tiger's instructions and slowly poured his energy into the vermilion bird's tiny body. Li Fan felt as if he was charging a battery. Soon, the energy in the vermilion bird's body was filled by Li Fan. According to this amount, the vermilion bird should leave his body and exist alone for about an hour. If it exceeded an hour, it would have to return to his side to replenish its energy. Come, take a look at the Dharmakaya battle spirit that I, Wanning, have transformed. As Li Fan spoke, he released his energy once again. The vermilion bird immediately transformed into a nearly 3-meter tall battle spirit that stood in front of Li Fan. Not bad. Li Fan was a little excited. With this disguised battle spirit, he did not have to worry about being exposed. Armor. Li Fan added the power of the black armor. This simple black armor was the equipment of ordinary soldiers, but it could also be worn by the battle spirit. As expected, Li Fan's vermilion bird battle spirit was instantly covered in black armor. The armor had the insignia of King Yu and a silver spear. It was said that King Yu was brave and skilled in battle. This could be seen from the insignia. In heavens beyond, there was a strict class system. Ordinary immortals were the lowest class. They had no rights and were the property of the feudal lords. Above them were the retainers of the feudal lords. They were all inferior immortals and were owned by the feudal lords. As for the superior immortals, they were the absolute nobles of heavens beyond. However, the nobles were only the rulers in name, the royal family. However, the royal family did not have any military power. It was only a spiritual symbol. The military power was in the hands of the feudal lords. Furthermore, there were 8 real bosses above them. The 8 great heaven immortals controlled the Elders' Council. The insignia was a symbol bestowed by the royal family. Every feudal lord had a different one. Usually, if they used a sword or spear, it meant that the feudal lord could fight. Li Fan closed his eyes and began to communicate with the battle spirit's soul. Just like operating the honored immortal, when Li Fan opened his eyes, he was already in the view of the battle spirit. At the same time, he could feel young Wanning's attachment to him. This was the feeling of their souls being in harmony. Spear, come. Li Fan controlled the battle spirit and waved at the shelf beside him. A 3-meter-long spear immediately flew over and landed in the hands of the battle spirit. Li Fan had never practiced spear techniques before, but he had seen the martial emperor use spear techniques that were combined with the Shenyuan sword technique. He controlled the battle spirit and displayed a set of clean and beautiful spear techniques. Not bad. Just as Li Fan was displaying his spear techniques, a woman's voice sounded from the side. Li Fan turned his head and saw a woman wearing a red silk dress. She had a neat braid and looked very young. She was beautiful and had a heroic aura. She was standing beside him and looking at him. Who are you? Li Fan immediately held his spear and looked at the woman coldly. This is an important place in the barracks. Unauthorized people are not allowed to enter. I am not an unauthorized person. The woman in red placed her hands behind her back and said very freely, I am also a person of King Yu. King Yu's woman? Li Fan raised his eyebrows. Bah! The woman in red glared at Li Fan, then sorted out her emotions and said, I am a soldier. I only fight, not marry. There are actually women in the barracks. Li Fan felt that it was a bit inconceivable. What, do you look down on women? The woman in red immediately raised her head and looked at Li Fan. That's not it, I am just a bit surprised. Men can fight, why can't women? The woman in red said, maybe, women are better at fighting. Damn, is she an Amazon female warrior? Chapter 1689. Li Fan felt that he was not a male chauvinist, but this woman in front of him was a little female chauvinist. Your spear technique is not bad. How about I test you? The red-clothed woman suddenly provoked Li Fan. I want to see if your spear technique can match up to mine. Li Fan said. Since this woman dared to issue such a challenge, it meant that her spear technique should be very outstanding. What, you don't dare? The red-clothed woman's provocation became even more obvious. It's not that I don't dare, I'm just curious. Li Fan muttered. Curious about what? A curious woman shouldn't like to fight. No. I'm curious about why there are so many lazy fellows in this King Chu's barracks. How can there be someone like you? The woman's expression became a little strange. Don't talk about such useless things. Let's fight. The red-clothed woman continued to request. Li Fan could only agree. Fine. Although I'm just a new recruit, if you want to fight, I will accompany you to the end. Who was little Overlord afraid of? Come on then. Not bad, you have courage. Come on. As she spoke, the red-clothed woman suddenly released her own battle spirit. A 4-meter-tall battle goddess walked out with large strides, holding 2 great spears in her hands. Perhaps she was intentionally going easy on Li Fan, but this battle spirit did not wear any armor. Was it an old hag with 2 spears? Li Fan did not understand. How could 2 spears fight a battle? You first. The red-clothed woman waved at Li Fan. Li Fan did not hesitate and immediately controlled his battle spirit to charge forward. With 1 spear setting the 9 prefectures, he directly pierced towards the red-clothed woman's battle spirit. Good. The red-clothed woman seemed to be praising Li Fan. Her battle spirit moved as well. The battle spirit blocked Li Fan's attack with 1 spear, while the other spear pierced towards Li Fan's neck. In her hands, this pair of spears could be used both offensively and defensively. However, Li Fan was not someone to be trifled with. With a shake of the spear in his hand, he pushed aside the red-clothed woman's defense. Ignoring his own safety, he thrust the spear towards the red-clothed woman's chest. If this continued, the 2 of them would probably end up in a tie. The red-clothed woman decisively retreated and sheathed her spear. However, Li Fan was relentless. He once again stepped forward and continuously attacked. Each time, he attacked the red-clothed woman as if he didn't care about his life. Although the red-clothed woman's battle spirit seemed superior, it was still forced back by Li Fan again and again. After a few rounds, she finally couldn't take it anymore. She put away her spears and took a step back. She looked at Li Fan and scolded, "Your self-destructive spear technique is really annoying. Although it's annoying, it's useful." Li Fan laughed. No matter who the other party is, at worst we'll all die together. Although his fighting style was a bit shameless, the red-clothed woman really couldn't do anything to Li Fan. Your fighting style is at most a life for a life. What use is that on the battlefield? If I trade for one, then I'll make a profit. Li Fan said with a serious expression. It's not worth it to trade for a small soldier, but a 10-man commander should be fine. There are also centurions, commanders, and even the feudal lords themselves. You're dreaming. The red-clothed woman fiercely glared at Li Fan. That's fine. Your shameless fighting style is actually useful to me. Since you're quite diligent, I'll forgive you. The red-clothed woman waved her hand. It's getting late. Go back and rest. As for seeing me, you don't need to mention it to anyone. No, I have to report this to the 10-man commander. Li Fan felt that this woman was far too arrogant. He wouldn't fall for her tricks. No. The red-clothed woman wasn't happy. She glared at him. You're not allowed to go. Come on, Why should I listen to you? Li Fan laughed. I don't even know who you are. Maybe you're a spy from the enemy country. Nonsense. I'm a citizen of Yu City. How could I be a spy from the enemy country? The red-clothed woman immediately said. You think you're right? Where's the proof? Proof? What else do I need? Before the red-clothed woman finished her words, she suddenly frowned. Li Fan also felt something was amiss. He subconsciously looked towards the east. A guest has arrived. The red-clothed woman looked to her left and right before pointing at Li Fan. You, follow me. Me? Yes. The red-clothed woman took out a jade pendant from her bosom. On it, there was a silver spear insignia. This was a very high status symbol in Yu City. I'm ordering you to follow me. All right. Li Fan could only nod. What exactly is this woman's identity? But his current goal was to conceal himself. Thus, he could only follow beside this woman. The two of them passed through the barracks and arrived at a forest outside. A man wearing black robes was standing in the forest. Behind him were two tall and fierce men. Each of them emitted a unique aura. Oh! As the man saw the red-clothed woman walk over, he didn't seem surprised. He only gave a soft "oh" sound. Coming uninvited means you're a thief. The red-clothed woman glared at him. I didn't think that among your many hobbies, you would actually be a thief. That's not true. The man chuckled. I'm just here to take a look at my territory in advance. What an arrogant fellow. The red-clothed woman seemed a bit angry. Her battle spirit stood up from behind her and let out a long roar. The war is imminent. There's no need for you and me to fight. The man crossed his arms, a bit disdainful. Moreover, you only brought a single, recruit? Don't tell me you want to rely on him to defeat my two capable generals. The two men behind him were both wearing white armor. On the armor, there was a scimitar insignia. It was unknown which vassal state they were from. Li Fan pondered for a bit. To appear at this time and say such words, he felt that the other party should be King Ku's people. It was very likely that this man in front of him was King Ku. The two generals behind him were currently emitting the aura of an inferior immortal. Who was that red-clothed woman? Her position on King Ku's side was probably not low. Li Fan made a bold guess. Perhaps she was King Ku himself. I alone am enough. The red-clothed woman's battle spirit held her spear and didn't retreat. Lord. Li Fan suddenly stepped forward and called out a title that caused the red-clothed woman to be slightly surprised. There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. I'll help you deal with King Ku's two lackeys. Ha ha ha. You King Ku people really like to talk nonsense. King Ku couldn't help but laugh. A mere recruit actually dares to provoke me. That's fine too. Go and take him down. Let King Yu take a look at what a true elite troop is. Yes. The two generals released their battle spirits at the same time. The two 3-meter-tall battle spirits were wearing white armor. Each of them held two large sabers. Without any politeness, they charged towards Li Fan from the left and right. Chapter 1690. The war between King Ku and King Yu had been going on for over 1,000 years. The two countries were right next to each other and there was a rich town in the middle. The two countries constantly fought over this place. King Ku believed that he had a strong army and should annex all of you, allowing his vassal state to become a true large country. But the Elders' Council had strict laws. Vassal states could fight each other, but they absolutely could not destroy a country. The only way to unify the two countries was through marriage. It just so happened that the King of Yu was a very outstanding woman. King Ku believed that she was worthy of him and added the entire vassal state as her dowry. But the King of Yu was very proud. She scoffed at King Ku's words. King Ku was furious and started a war again. He prepared to take over all the towns besides Yu City in one fell swoop. He wanted the King of Yu to live in her capital city. At this moment, King Ku decided to teach the stupid Yu recruits a lesson and make them pay the price for their stupidity. The red-clothed woman, who was the King of Yu, did not have time to stop them. She saw the two powerful battle spirits arrive in front of her idiotic subordinate and raise their sabers. In the end, Li Fan just stood there without moving. He did not even summon his battle spirit. In heavens beyond heavens, only battle spirits were allowed to fight. They were not allowed to injure each other. Otherwise, it would be a violation of the law and they would be locked in a small black room for 1,000 years as punishment. Thus, the two-blade battle spirits could only stand there and raise their sabers as they glared at Li Fan. What? Are you scared, silly? King Ku could not help but sneer. Look, you people only know how to talk. Shameful. The king of you could not help but stomp his feet. Li Fan smiled. What is shameful about this? This is a reasonable tactic. The moment his voice fell, the two-blade battle spirits suddenly felt something was wrong. They turned their heads and discovered that a spear battle spirit that was less than 3 meters tall had unknowingly appeared behind them. Go! Li Fan's battle spirit instantly thrust out its great spear. Clean and neat, it pierced through the throat of a blade battle spirit and lifted it high into the air. Then, it threw it towards another blade battle spirit. The remaining blade battle spirit hurriedly used his two blades to push away his fallen comrade. At the same time, Li Fan's battle spirit took this opportunity to arrive in front of him. The great spear in his hand pierced through his chest and nailed him to the ground. The bodies of the two battle spirits began to collapse. The two generals also came back to their senses and knelt on the ground, losing the ability to fight. My apologies. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. Your people have pretty good equipment, but they're a little too stupid. You. Damn it. Ku Wang was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He had never seen such a hooligan fight before. The beautiful King Yu stood at the side and didn't say a word. King Yu. Is this your warrior? Ku Wang roared at King Yu. He is not a warrior, he is a shameless hooligan. You should hang him up and punish him according to military law. Hey! King Yu blinked his eyes. Did I? He didn't break any rules. So you're saying that you want to protect him? For a meritorious general, I don't even have time to reward him. How can you talk about protecting him? The beautiful King Yu raised her chin and looked at Ku Wang coldly. But you actually came to my territory to provoke me. Ku Wang, next time if you want to come, bring someone with some fighting strength. Don't bring this kind of small fry, it's too embarrassing. All right, I will remember this humiliation. Ku Wang had no choice but to turn and leave angrily. His two loyal subordinates stood up with difficulty and wanted to leave with him, but he kicked them to the ground. Two useless things. Li Fan frowned. As expected, this was an absolute hierarchy. His two subordinates had only been defeated and they had to receive such treatment. The two of them crawled up again and staggered behind their master. Mph, a bunch of clowns. The beautiful King Yu sneered. After they walked far away, she turned her head and looked at Li Fan. You really are a scoundrel through and through. In war, the victor is king and the loser is a bandit. However, Li Fan spoke with conviction. If I win, they can only call me a scoundrel. If I lose, then they will humiliate me and scold me. We, the king of you, will become fish meat. Nonsense. The beautiful King Yu rolled her eyes, then stared at Li Fan. How do you know that I am the king of you? Lord. Even a fool can tell, okay? Since you know that I am the king of you, you're still so rude when talking to me. The beautiful King Yu looked at Li Fan, as if she was threatening him. Aren't you afraid that I will punish you? Everyone outside says that although the king of you is beautiful and arrogant, she treats her people well. Li Fan chuckled. I feel that they are definitely not rumors, right? As expected of a scoundrel. When the beautiful King Yu heard this, she could only give up. If I were the king of you, I would have thrown you into a small black room long ago. Fortunately, you are not the king of you, but the wise, divine, beautiful, and great king of you. Li Fan flattered him without batting an eyelid. All right, let's return to the barracks early. The beautiful King Yu could not afford to be angry at Li Fan. Tomorrow, I will bring people to patrol the barracks. If you wake up late, don't blame the army for punishing you. With that, the beautiful King Yu leaped into the air. A black leopard immortal pet flew out and dragged her. Stepping on fire, it headed in the direction of the city lord's mansion. Damn, you're killing the donkey after it leaves the millstone. I helped you so much, but you didn't even treat me to dinner or anything. Li Fan curled his lips and could only walk back alone. When he returned to the barracks, the Decurion told him that dinner time was over and there was nothing to eat. Fuck. Li Fan almost vomited blood. Although he was not particularly thirsty for food, using the battle spirit in the skies beyond consumed a lot of energy. If he did not replenish his food, he would feel hungry. Furthermore, the food in the skies beyond was different. It had high energy, and the feeling was similar to eating pills. Go and feed the horses. The Decurion pointed to the stables outside. Li Fan was helpless. It was not easy for him to hide his identity. He could only obediently go to the stables and see that there were more than a dozen steeds from the skies beyond. They were different from the steeds in the human world. The steeds here were 3 meters tall, had 6 hooves, and had a pair of 1/2 meter long wings on both sides. Every vassal state had their own cavalry, but the skies beyond heaven's horses were extremely precious. A slightly richer vassal state could only raise 100 of them. For a small country like you, having 20 of them was already very good. Come, I'll feed you. Li Fan had not eaten yet, but he carried a large bucket of horsegrass and fed it to the skies horses. I really didn't expect that young master would actually run to the skies beyond heaven to be a horse protector. Li Fan muttered, I wonder if my next step will be to wreak havoc in the heavenly palace. Wreak havoc in the heavenly palace? A voice suddenly sounded in his ear, giving Li Fan a fright. Chapter 1691. Who is it? Li Fan suddenly turns his head and sees Centurion Qian Ping standing beside him with a food box in his hand. He is looking at him with a complicated expression. Li Fan silently raises his elemental energy as he thinks to himself, could it be that he has been discovered? Should I make the first move and get rid of this centurion? In that instant, Li Fan is thinking of dozens of ways to silently get rid of Centurion Qian Ping. What is havoc in heaven? Qian Ping does not understand the meaning of havoc in heaven. He places the food box on the shelf beside the stable and then looks at Li Fan a few more times as if he is sizing him up. You brat, did you get lucky? Hey, what do you mean? Jun Shong actually specially instructed me to bring you some food. Qian Ping is puzzled, didn't you come from Qingqiu? How do you know Jun Shong? Fate of meeting once. Fate of meeting once. Li Fan says. At this time, if he says he does not know her, Qian Ping probably will not believe him. He really did not expect that this beautiful Queen Yu is quite interesting. She is obviously tough on the outside but soft on the inside. Why don't you say that you got lucky? Qian Ping lets out a long sigh. Even I have not seen Queen Yu before. You have not seen her before. How do you know what she instructed you to do? Li Fan is puzzled. Naturally, it was the order from the messenger. You idiot. Qian Ping glares at Li Fan and then hurriedly waves his hand. Sorry. Just pretend that I did not say anything earlier. What? Are you afraid that I will report you to Jun Shong? Who would be afraid? You are not really going to report me, right? What a joke. That is not something that a man would do. Li Fan pats Qian Ping's shoulder. Eating is more important. I am really a little hungry and want to eat horsegrass. Don't. Qian Ping hurriedly pulls Li Fan. This horsegrass is very expensive. What do you mean? A man is inferior to a horse. What do you think? Qian Ping rolled his eyes. In the various vassal states, the status of the heavenly horse is much higher than that of an ordinary person. For example, do you think this is some grass that can be picked casually? These were all immortal herbs grown by the herb farmers. 1 mu of land could only produce 1 jin, that's why it's extremely valuable. Damn, I really want to try it. You'd better eat this. Qian Ping pointed at the food box. These are delicacies sent by the city lord's mansion, not the coarse rations that we stupid soldiers eat. Really? Li Fan opened the food box. There were a total of 3 layers. The first layer was some delicate pastries, and the second layer was a barbecued bird. Although he didn't know what kind of bird it was, it smelled very fragrant. There were 2 bottles of wine on the 3rd floor, which made Qian Ping drool. Fairy flower cake, honey roasted goose, and September brew. There were a few types of food that were similar to the food on Earth. The sky beyond Avalon was originally an imitation of Earth's space, and the sky beyond Avalon had also come into contact with the humans on Earth, so it was normal for some of their food to be similar. However, although it smelled fragrant, there were still some differences. After all, Li Fan was used to eating good wine and good meat from Chou, so the cooking methods of the sky beyond Avalon were still somewhat inferior. But food was better than nothing, not to mention that the food of the sky beyond Avalon had a very high energy value, which could effectively replenish Li Fan's vitality. Come, it just so happens that there are 2 bottles of wine, let us brothers share it. As Li Fan said this, he placed the food on the small wooden table at the side, then took out the 2 bottles of wine and gave one to Chen Ping. No, no way. Chen Ping waved his hand, this is the food that Zhang Shong bestowed to you. What's more, alcohol is not allowed in the military camp. It's fine if you have a special pardon, but I can't. It's fine, no one comes here anyway. What's more, can this little wine still be called wine to you? Li Fan could see that this Chen Ping was also an old drunkard. Let's just drink a little. That grandson Sun Chuan went out to drink and no one cared, so what's wrong with the 2 of us drinking a little? If Zhang Shong wants to talk about it, I'll take care of it for you. Good. Chen Ping was tempted. This little wine was indeed not much, drinking a little was harmless. Thus, the 2 of them sat down and began to drink and share the delicacies. Darren, let me speak the truth, our military camp. Do you think, can we really win the war? Li Fan asked as he ate and drank. Although he defeated 2 of King Ku's subordinates today, he had to admit that the other side's military discipline was much stronger than this side's. It's hard to say. Chen Ping couldn't help but sigh. Although Zhang Shong treats us very well, he unknowingly indulges a group of people. I don't need to say anything about the situation in our military camp, you've seen it for yourself. Look at these fellows, how many of them can go to war? Especially Sun Chuan's Centurion Battalion, all of them eat, drink and have fun. When they go to war, they're all done for. Then what do you think we should do? Don't tell me we're not going to fight this war. Fight, of course we're going to fight. Although Chen Ping was depressed, his fighting spirit was strong. There are no cowards in our Yu people. King Ku is shameless, he actually dares to make a move on my Zhang Shong. Even if I have to go back 100 years in my cultivation, I will still destroy King Ku's battle spirit. Li Fan said that although most of the Yu soldiers were weak, there were still loyal soldiers like Chen Ping. Unfortunately, there were too few people like Chen Ping. It would be even more difficult to deal with King Ku's army. Actually, it's fine if it's others, but King Ku has 50 cavalrymen under his command. That's the most important thing. Chen Ping put down the wine bottle and wiped his mouth. They have 50 cavalrymen while we have 20. It's hard to fight. Speaking of which, why don't I see the centurion of the cavalry battalion? Li Fan was trying to get information out of him. The cavalry battalion is made up of the elites of the elites. These people are even more arrogant than Sun Chuan. Chen Ping curled his lips. This bunch of grandsons are probably hugging some women who worship them to sleep. What the hell? So in the realm beyond Avalon, there was such a thing as grass powder? Alright, I won't nag you about this anymore. We've almost drunk enough wine. After you feed the horses, go back and rest early. The war is imminent. Tomorrow, Lord General will personally come to inspect. Maybe the Zhang Shong will also come. At that time, I'll see that bunch of grandsons Sun Chuan won't be able to bear the consequences. Alright, I respectfully bid you farewell, Lord. Li Fan sent Chen Ping off with his eyes. At the same time, he had a basic understanding of the fighting style of the realm beyond Avalon. If he wanted to know more information, he had to climb to a higher position. Only then would he be able to get close to the core of power. With his current position as the horse protector, he was afraid that the information he could find out was only this little bit. Li Fan decided to gain military merits and climb up. After he finished feeding the horses, he returned to the camp to sleep. Lying among a group of men, Li Fan couldn't help but cry. Damn it, I really want to quickly finish my mission and go back to hug those beautiful girls to sleep. Chapter 1692. Early the next morning, the Decurion kicked them out of bed one by one. "Get up. The general is here." The Decurion kicked him hard. Although Li Fan was already awake, he still pretended to be asleep and was kicked out of bed. It was better to keep a low profile so as not to attract attention. Li Fan didn't just sleep that night. He probably thought of a strategy to disrupt Sky Beyond Avalon. Although Sky Beyond Avalon loved to fight, they relied on the Dharma body battle spirit system to perfectly avoid the decrease in population in Sky Beyond Avalon. Since that was the case, if he wanted to destroy Sky Beyond Avalon, he should promote their fighting and turn the entire Sky Beyond Avalon into a chaotic war. 49 vassal states, let them all fight it out. Moreover, if he could make them all give up on this battle spirit system, that would be even more perfect. Let Sky Beyond Avalon kill each other. Li Fan and the other soldiers of the same battalion put on their uniforms and stood neatly in front of the soldier battalion. In front of another barracks, hundreds of soldiers stood there. However, they were all dressed sloppily and stood casually in front of the barracks, waiting to be inspected. Seeing them like this, the Decurion couldn't help but twitch his mouth. "I'm so envious of the people of the 1st Battalion. Yeah, I heard they're living a very carefree life. All of you shut up." The Decurion shouted and these people shut their mouths, not daring to make a sound. The two centurions finally walked over. Qian Ping and Sun Quan didn't like each other. Although the two of them walked together, they were at least 10 meters apart. "Greetings, sir." 30 soldiers of the 2nd Battalion shouted at the centurion Qian Ping. "Millimeter, all of you, keep your spirits up. The general will be here in a moment. I heard that Zhun Shong will also come today. All of you better perform well." These soldiers were all excited and almost hugged each other. "Zhun Shong will come. That's Zhun Shong." Among the vassal states, the person with the highest status was the monarch of the state. If anyone could see Zhun Shong, it would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If they could catch Zhun Shong's eye and be granted a noble title, that would be even better, especially someone like King Yu, a lord with a good reputation. Who in Yu City didn't want to meet her? On the other side, the people in the barracks also cried out in surprise. It seemed that they also knew about this news. "Everyone, prepare yourselves. Don't be like that group of people. They look like ghosts. How are they soldiers?" The soldiers on Qian Ping's side were still all right. Although they were not spirited, at least they were dressed neatly. Looking at the 1st Battalion, they were not even dressed properly. Li Fan couldn't help but shake his head inwardly. This kind of military discipline was really unacceptable. He's here. A sentry in the distance made a gesture, and all the soldiers immediately became alert. They put their hands on their thighs and stood up straight. "My lord has come up." In the distance, a few figures walked over. Naturally, Li Fan already knew the person walking at the front. The beautiful King Yu was still wearing a red dress, but this time, her dress had a spear family emblem on it. Beside her was a woman. This woman looked fresh and refined. She really looked like a beautiful celestial fairy. She was dressed in an aqua blue dress, and beside her were 4 sturdy experts. Li Fan immediately determined that this blue-clothed beauty's status wasn't low. To be able to make King Yu follow her closely, she was probably a duke of a certain country. Beside them was a middle-aged general in black armor. This middle-aged general didn't look like an ordinary expert. He was at least at the level of an inferior immortal. The general's eyes swept over. His gaze was sharp, but he didn't notice Li Fan. "Welcome, General." "Welcome, Lord." All the soldiers shouted in unison. "Not bad." The general was quite satisfied. "Lord, look, our army is still very good." Li Fan was speechless. "How could this thing be called good? Your definition of the army is too lenient. Along with our cavalry, dealing with King Ku won't be a problem." The beautiful King Yu also nodded. This time, Li Fan was completely speechless. "You want to fight King Ku with this bunch of things? Those 2 idiots under King Ku can take a bunch of you down." However, Li Fan could only keep these words in his heart and not say it out loud. However, he was currently attached to Yu City. If he watched as King Yu was defeated by that brainless King Ku, it would affect his plan. Ruo Wen, what do you think? Pretty good. When the time comes, I'll bet on you winning. The blue-clothed beauty smiled at the beautiful King Yu. Two women, one was like ice and the other was like fire, attracting the attention of all the men. However, everyone could only look and didn't dare to have any thoughts. This was the Lord. The Lord's friend was so close, how could he be an ordinary person? Miss. The battlefield is very dangerous, for your safety. It's best not to get close. A sturdy guard at the side immediately knelt down and said to the blue-clothed beauty, "With King Yu protecting me, how can there be any danger?" "Yes, I'm here." The beautiful King Yu seemed to be very confident in her own strength. However, it was quite right, these high immortals were all about the same strength. In the battle with King Ku, the strongest person on the other side was that King Ku, who also had the strength of a high immortal. In addition, with these four burly men surrounding her, who could hurt her? Forget about others, even if she made a move, she probably wouldn't have the ability. Miss, who do you think is stronger between my army and King Ku's army? King Yu pulled his good friend's hand and asked directly. King Ku did flaunt his army in front of me last time. The blue-clothed young miss placed a hand on her lower lip and thought for a while. However, I don't really like him, so I didn't pay much attention to what he said. I only vaguely remember that he had 50 cavalry or something. I do know about King Ku's cavalry. King Yu was still proud, but the people in my camp can defeat 10 of them. As for my cavalry, one of them can defeat 3 of them. Phut! Li Fan couldn't hold it in and finally burst out laughing. In an instant, Li Fan felt all sorts of fiery gazes landing on him. What are you laughing at? The general immediately stared at Li Fan. His gaze seemed to be able to kill. Are you mocking my Yu City's army? Centurion Qian Ping and the Decurion were also badly frightened. The Decurion immediately knelt down in front of King Yu and apologized profusely. I'm sorry, Lord King Yu, he is a recruit and doesn't know the rules. I will definitely teach him a lesson. If King Yu blames him, he would definitely be punished. Li Dazhuang, this brat, is he trying to kill me? Chapter 1693. It wasn't that Li Fan wanted to laugh, but he really couldn't hold it in. Men, drag this brat away and beat him 40 times. Then lock him in a small dark room. After that, he will be at your disposal. The general waved his hand and was about to give the order. Qian Ping knelt there and muttered in his heart. King Yu had even sent someone to deliver food to Li Dazhuang yesterday, so the two of them should know each other. After this happened, wouldn't King Yu protect him? But King Yu was just standing there. The beautiful woman's expression didn't look too good. No rush. The young miss was a little curious about Li Fan. It seemed that this was the first time she saw someone like Li Fan. With a wave of her hand, the general definitely wouldn't dare to say no. Young miss, this person is probably a spy sent by King Ku. The general cupped his hands towards the young miss. It could be seen how high this young miss's status was. He is not a spy. The beautiful King Yu finally spoke, he just doesn't know the rules. Since King Yu had spoken, the general could only hold back his anger and retreat to the side. However, he turned his head and glared at Li Fan. Young miss wants to ask you a question. If you say anything wrong, be careful of being locked in a small dark room for 1,000 years. Being locked in a small dark room for 1,000 years was the heaviest punishment in Sky Beyond Sky. Sometimes, loneliness and darkness could indeed drive people crazy. Come here, I have something to ask you. Since the young miss summoned him, Li Fan didn't put on any airs. He quickly walked forward and cupped his hands towards the young miss. Young miss, please ask. Why did you laugh just now? Don't you believe King Yu's words? The young miss looked at Li Fan with a puzzled expression. Jun Shong is confident in his troops, but she is Jun Shong after all. She doesn't live in this military camp all the time. Li Fan's words were rather well behaved, but every word was sharp, but too much confidence is conceit. I want to ask, how many years has it been since Jun Shong fought with King Ku? Over 100 years. Hearing Li Fan ridicule her, Although the beautiful King Yu was unhappy, she still had self-restraint. However, she still had to say what she had to say. If you speak rudely to this king again, you'll have to bear the consequences. Jun Shong, we haven't fought for more than 100 years. How can you say that our infantry can fight against 10 and our cavalry can fight against 3? That's how it is. After fighting for so long, I always have the upper hand. Bringing down the king? That's not proper at all. Perhaps in the past, the Yu army was strong and well-trained, able to overcome poverty and weakness. But on the first day I entered the camp, I could feel that our camp was slacking. Li Fan pointed at the 1st Battalion. The 1st Battalion is the largest and most complete 100-man team here. But with this kind of military discipline, if you give me 10 people, I can wipe them all out. Bullshit. Sun Quan exploded when he heard that. He immediately scolded Li Fan. Who do you think you are? How dare you slander me? I think you're tired of living. Shut up. The bull general glared at him. Did I allow you to speak? Shouting and wrangling in front of Jun Shong, where is the propriety? General, Jun Shong, you guys have to uphold justice for me. Sun Quan is very unconvinced. He cupped his hands. I, Sun Quan, am a veteran who has won countless battles for us. Back then, Jun Shong trusted me and promoted me to a centurion. If Jun Shong feels that I'm incompetent, then remove me. Sun Quan, calm down first. The beautiful Yu Wang also felt a headache. This newcomer, Li Dazhuang, is not only a scoundrel, he's also a bit of a thorn. With him doing this, it seems like she has lost control of the camp. Sun Quan is a veteran and has a high prestige in the 1st Battalion. Furthermore, he has never made any mistakes. For Li Dazhuang to say this about him, could it be that someone instructed him to? Qian Ping, you must be the one who urged this kid. Sun Quan also insisted on Qian Ping, you're just jealous of me and want to destroy my 1st Battalion, right? Justice is in the hearts of the people. Qian Ping coldly snorted, Sun Quan, I've always told you that you're arrogant and despotic. As a centurion, you don't train your own soldiers but instead spend all day drinking and having fun. The military camp had almost become Sun Quan's private club. Now, even the newcomer can't stand it anymore. I just said a few words and you can't stand it. This is called slandering me. This is called slander. Sun Quan's face turned red with anger. This father's 1st Battalion has astonishing battle strength. Don't talk about Ku Wang, even if 2 more vassals come, I can still beat them until they don't know north. Not necessarily. Li Fan smiled. What battle strength does your army have? I'm just a new recruit, but I alone can challenge 100 of you. Bullshit. Bullshit. Hearing Li Fan going from 10 people to 1 person challenging 100, Sun Quan cursed. All of you shut up. The general berated. All of you shut up and listen to Jun Shong and Big Miss's questions. Yes. Li Fan cupped his hands, indicating that he's willing to listen. Kid, today I must teach you a good lesson. Sun Quan is still in a bad mood. Pointing at Li Fan, he continued to curse. I'll let you. Shut up. The general suddenly roared. A wave of sound directly hit Sun Quan's body, causing him to fall on his butt. Sun Quan crawled up, his face turning even redder. But he doesn't dare to challenge the general. Jun Shong, Big Miss, please make a decision. Since this young General Li said that he can fight 100 by himself, why don't we let him prove it? Big Miss and King Yu glanced at each other, then said, but fighting 100 by himself might be a bit exaggerated. Let's give young General Li 9 people. Using 10 to fight 100, if he can't do it, then this young General Li will be locked up in a small black room for 100 years as punishment. Of course, he still has to apologize to Centurion Sunday. Then what if I win? Li Fan suddenly asked. Impudent. Did I allow you to speak? The general reprimanded Li Fan, but Big Miss only smiled. If you win, then you will become this battalion's centurion. How about it? Very fair. Li Fan nodded, but if I win, not only do I want to be a battalion centurion, I want to lead the entire King of Yu's army. Heh, what big words. Ping could not help but interrupt. You brat, you don't have much ability, but your ambition is not small. You actually want to be my Yu's general? The general did not say anything. Even his expression did not change. General Feng, what do you think? Big Miss seems to be making the decision for the beautiful King of Yu. She seems to be very interested in this matter. If he can do it, then it means that he is a capable person. The general said without hesitation, if he is truly capable and can strengthen my Yu's army, then even if I have to give up my position, I will be willing. General Feng is my Yu's cornerstone. How can he be replaced by a little scoundrel? The beautiful King of Yu finally could not help but say, even if he can win, then just give him a deputy general position. Thank you, Big Miss. Thank you, Jun Shong. Chapter 1694. Li Fan immediately raised his serpent punishing stick and bowed his head in thanks. Don't be in a hurry to thank me. The Yu monarch glared at Li Fan. If you continue to cause trouble, then don't blame me for personally taking care of you. That 40 strikes is too little. I will personally give you 100 strikes. The beautiful Yu monarch personally giving him 100 strikes, the surrounding people all felt a chill down their spines. Okay, then his flesh would probably split open, and he wouldn't be able to recover even after lying in the small dark room for a year. If I really lose, I would be willing to let the Lord personally beat me. Li Fan looked at the beautiful Yu monarch and laughed. The Yu monarch was angry in her heart. This stinky brat really doesn't care about the law. The Yu monarch's emotions were very complicated. She wanted Li Fan to win, but at the same time, she didn't want him to win, still lose. The more miserable the loss, the better. It was time to let this brat know the immensity of heaven and earth. At that time, she would beat him up and lock him up for 100 years. When he comes out, he would probably be a lot more restrained. She would train him well, and in the future, he would be able to become a centurion or something. Maybe, he could really be her left and right hand. When she goes to Earth and rules over such a big place, it wouldn't do if she didn't have a suitable person to help her. What was she thinking about? She should first let this brat learn a lesson. Ping used to be a capable general under her, and his first battalion would definitely be able to teach this new recruit a good lesson. Ping, bring your first battalion and fight for our Yu's glory. After the Yu monarch finished speaking to Ping, she looked at Li Fan. Li Dazhuang, go pick your people. 9 people, you have to choose well. Li Fan accepted the order and walked in front of the 2nd Battalion, looking at the dumbfounded soldiers of the 2nd Battalion. Fellow comrades, who is willing to fight with me? Everyone looked at each other, thinking that this brat was blindly showing off. This was a matter of courting death. Who would dare to follow you? 10 people against 100, this was clearly a matter of courting death. How could they win? Everyone, you are all soldiers of the Yu monarch. Could it be that you don't even have this bit of courage? Li Fan asked in a loud voice. Right now, who doesn't know that the Ku monarch has been recruiting soldiers for the past 2 years? Just the cavalry alone has 50. There were more than 500 infantrymen. At that time, all of you will have to fight 1 against 5. This is just an act. If you guys are so cowardly, how can you even talk about going to the battlefield? I think you'd better clean yourselves up and go home to raise cows and farm. Well said. The more Qian Ping looked at Li Fan, the more he liked him. Come, I'll accompany you. So what if it's just the 2 of us? If we can't beat 100, we can beat 50. Qian Ping's heroic appearance also made Li Fan very emotional. For King Yu to have such a subordinate was not bad. Since the centurion is going, how can I not? The decurion thought to himself, I'm going to die either way, so I might as well take a gamble. Then I'll come too. Fuck, let's go for it. A few more reckless soldiers walked out and stood beside Li Fan. Exactly 10. Li Fan was delighted. These 10 people were enough. With these 10 people, it was enough to destroy Sun Quan's 100 men. In fact, he could do it alone, but in order to conceal his strength, he could only be conservative and play some fancy tactics. Good. The 2 of you fight in your own camps. King Yu pulled the young miss's hand. Young miss, follow me to the sky to watch the battle. With that, she waved her hand. The black leopard immediately walked out from the void and carried the two beauties on its back. Then, it stepped on a black cloud and floated in the air. Brat, just wait for the military rod. Sun Quan and Li Fan's grudge could be considered to have been formed. He turned his head and shouted at his subordinates. Brothers, there's an idiot who thinks he can provoke us. Do you think we can let him go? No. Kill him. I'll fight 10 of them alone. Over 100 men started talking at the same time. Sun Quan led them back to the 1st Battalion and entered the camp. Very quickly, 100 battle spirits wearing black armor and carrying long spears walked out of the camp. They formed a 100-man formation and aggressively waited for Li Fan and the others. And Li Fan and Qian Ping also entered the camp. The moment they entered, the Decurion who just said he wanted to go all out immediately had a bitter expression. Say you, why are you jumping around blindly for no reason? Now look at us, with just the 10 of us, can we beat a 100-man team? We are all new soldiers here. The first camp has fought God knows how many battles. What do you have to compete with them? The first camp has won too many battles in the past and has long become a proud army. A proud army is bound to lose. Li Fan was full of confidence. They haven't fought for more than 100 years. These people are no longer the brave and skilled soldiers of the past. Each and every one of them is living like a prince. Just based on this, you have the confidence to defeat them. That's right. Just based on this. Of course, we still need to add some small tactics. All right, you command. I believe in you. Qian Ping was very confident in Li Fan. This kid was not an idiot. He would not mess around. Thank you, Centurion. Everyone, listen to my arrangements. After a while, the people of the second camp finally moved. 10 people walked out. Among these 10 people, Li Fan stood at the very front. The Centurion and Decurion stood on his left and right respectively. Like him, they both carried great spears. And the remaining 7 people stood by their sides. They did not hold spears in their hands, only shields. Everyone, charge with me. Li Fan took the lead and led the team of 10 people. Instead of retreating, he directly charged towards the opponent's 100-man formation, a group of idiots. They don't even have spears. How can they defeat us? Sun Quan saw Li Fan and the others and sneered, brothers, eat these 10 people. Let them know the strength of our first camp. Haha, just 10 people. We can kill them in minutes. Centurion, let's go and kill them. The people of the first camp did not put Li Fan and the others in their eyes. A Decurion volunteered to lead his men and directly charged towards Li Fan. Ha! Li Fan looked at them and could not help but want to laugh. Since that was the case, then he will not be polite. He suddenly took the lead and directly charged forward and raised his spear. This time, Li Fan did not imitate the Shenyuan swordsmanship of the martial emperor, but his own dragon-subduing sword. What was the specialty of the dragon-subduing sword? It was fast, accurate and ruthless. Li Fan's sudden attack was like lightning. The Decurion that was charging at the front did not even have time to react and was directly stabbed in the throat by Li Fan. Li Fan sent the Decurion's battle spirit flying high into the air. The 2 people beside him also thrust their spears at the same time and pierced through the hearts of the other 2 battle spirits of the first camp. The remaining 7 wanted to attack, but their shields surrounded them like a turtle, protecting them from being attacked. Chapter 1695. Li Fan raises his spear and brings everyone to kill a team of 10 without losing a single person on his side. Such fighting strength finally shocks the people of the 1st Battalion. This team of 10 is a little abnormal. King Yu, who is sitting in the air, cannot help but raise his eyebrows when he sees this scene. King Yu, I think this person is quite interesting. A glint flashes across the young Miss's eyes. He just knows how to fight shamelessly. It seems like Sister King Yu is very familiar with him. The young Miss looks at King Yu meaningfully. What are you thinking about? The beautiful King Yu laughs. You, after being locked up for so long, you love to let your imagination run wild. I told you before to read less of those messy novels on Earth, but you just wouldn't listen. But they are very interesting. When the young miss talks about novels, her eyes start to shine again. The envoys can only bring me novels from Earth to read. Those are my only spiritual sustenance. In the future, you can read as much as you want. King Yu continues to look at the battle below. Let's see how long this kid can last. Brothers, they are just lucky. Everyone move out. Kill them. Sun Quan's face is also a little embarrassed. He does not want to lose face in front of the Lord. He leads the remaining 90 people and charges towards Li Fan. With 90 people on his side, he does not believe that they cannot eat a group of recruit eggs. When Li Fan sees this scene, he has an idea in his heart. The fighting style of Sky Beyond Sky does not have any rules. It is basically a square formation charging. This kind of method is the easiest to break. Li Fan brings the 10-man captain and the centurion. The three of them carry their spears and directly charge into the opponent's square formation. The three of them are like a meat grinder. Especially Li Fan. The spear in his hand is like lightning. In an instant, it pierces through 7 to 8 soldiers. No matter how strong the battle spirit is, in front of Li Fan, they are not his match. Li Fan does not care how thick their armor is. Every time his spear pierces through their defenseless throats. This person's spear technique is so beautiful. The young miss cannot help but praise. There's nothing special about his marksmanship. The beautiful King Yu analyzed, but there's a saying on Earth, in the world of martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. His spear technique is fast, so fast that the opponent can't react. This is already very powerful. This is the first time I've seen such a spear technique. I heard that he used to be from Qingqiu. Qingqiu is good at using swords. He must have changed his sword technique into a spear technique. It may seem like a farce, but it's actually quite effective. King Yu couldn't help but praise him. Looks like he's going to win. The eldest Miss' beautiful eyes flashed with a strange light. The battle below was coming to an end. More than half of Sun Quan's 100-man team had been killed. Although there were many of them, they could not surround Li Fan. The attacks from both sides and the back were all blocked by the shield. And in front of Li Fan and the others was a meat grinder. They slaughtered their way through, mercilessly killing all the battle spirits they encountered. Sun Quan only had around 30 people left. Moreover, they were utterly defeated. They had even given up on resisting and were waiting for Li Fan to come and reap the harvest. Fight, fight. What are you all doing? Sun Quan continued to roar, but the surrounding soldiers were all complaining. Aya, we can't beat him, why are we still fighting? That's right, we surrender, we surrender. It's time for breakfast. Under Sun Quan's gaze, these soldiers were all killed one by Li Fan. It was as easy as harvesting vegetables. Do you see this? Li Fan flicked away Sun Quan's spear, then placed it in front of his throat. These are your subordinates. They have no discipline, no guts. Although he did not want to remind them of this, Li Fan couldn't help but mock them. You should go back too. With that, Li Fan flicked away Sun Quan's battle spirit. This time, Sun Quan's 100-man team was directly crippled. They would need to rest for at least 10 days before they could recover their combat strength. Before the battle with King Ku, it was indeed a bit dangerous to lose a 100-man team. But King Yu did not seem to be worried. Because on Li Fan's side, every 10 people had the strength of a 100-man team. Then, what difference did it make with or without this 100-man team? This competition is won by young General Li. The young miss and King Yu flew down together. The young miss directly announced, with this, Li Fan will be King Yu's deputy general. Does anyone have any objections? Greetings, Deputy General. All the soldiers kneeled down towards Li Fan and cupped their hands in respect. Li Dazhuang, from now on, my barracks will be under your management. The beautiful King Yu looked at Li Fan and smiled faintly. 3 days later, King Ku has arranged a battle with me outside the city. At that time, I hope that you can give it your all. Li Fan was a bit speechless. Starting the battle so soon? A battalion was destroyed by him. They lost 100 men's combat strength. Forget it, it's fine if it's less. Those guys' combat strength is not worth mentioning. Without training for a month, they would not be of any use. He only had 3 days to train the 30 or so new soldiers under him. Are the 20 cavalry also under my command? Li Fan asked. Nonsense. The general originally found Li Fan to be a bit pleasing to the eye, but now he blew his beard and glared at him. The cavalry has always only listened to the ruler. All the vassal states are like this. Brat, aren't you a bit too arrogant? I was just asking. Since that's the case, then forget it. Li Fan felt a bit regretful in his heart. So the cavalry was the private army of the vassal states. If you dare to overstep in the future, I will not forgive you. The general snorted, while the young miss looked at Li Fan with a look of interest. You are quite interesting. I will continue to pay attention to you. Sorry, I am only loyal to King Yu. Li Fan cupped his hands towards the young miss. If King Yu needs it, I can even help her unify the vassal state. Li Fan's words startled the King of Yu and the young miss. You have such big ambitions. Li Fan spoke with justice. The vassal states have been at war for years, causing the people to have no way to make a living. Furthermore, the big countries bully the small countries, causing the small countries to live in hardship. I, King Yu, treat my people very well. If I unify the vassal states, I think it will be a good thing for our sky beyond skies. There are indeed a lot of vassal states. The young miss looked at Li Fan without any expression on her face. But even if it is unifying, it should be done by the royal family. You should not be worrying about it, right? I have never seen the royal family. I have only seen King Yu. Li Fan said bluntly, if King Yu is good, then I will be loyal to King Yu. If King Yu wants to assist the royal family, then I will assist the royal family. This person is really interesting. Chapter 1696. Just like that, Li Fan became a deputy general and commanded King Yu's army camp. It sounded pretty awesome, but Li Fan only had 38 people under him that could be used. He himself was number 38. Apart from himself, even the centurion Qian Ping was now used as an ordinary soldier. The remaining 100 people were all lying in the army camp. They wouldn't be able to recover in less than 10 days. Thus, after Li Fan obtained power, the first thing he did was to reform the military system. There were only 38 people. What was the point of having a 100-man team? Wasn't that nonsense? Li Fan directly changed the rules. He divided the 38 people into 6 teams. There was a captain in each team. 2 of them were responsible for attacking and the remaining 4 were responsible for protecting with shields. The remaining 2 people in the 6 assault teams were weaker and barely managed to be in charge of logistics. In these 3 days, Li Fan was in charge of training the 6 teams to disperse and concentrate their attacks. Li Fan felt that the strength of these 6 teams was their mobility. The other party could easily form a 100-man team. How could they move more smoothly than him? 3 days passed quickly. On the 4th day, King Ku had already brought his army to the gates of Yu City. According to the rules, as long as he defeated King Yu's army here, King Yu would be considered defeated. For this day, King Ku had been recuperating and nurturing his combat strength. Behind him was an army of 600 people. These 600 people lined up neatly in a phalanx formation, looking menacing. A team of 50 cavalrymen stood by King Ku's side to ensure his safety. Looking at King Yu's side, other than King Yu's 20-man cavalry team, there was only Li Fan's 30-man army guarding outside the city gates. King Yu stood at the front of the army formation. Her red skirt fluttered in the wind. Eldest Miss stood at the top of the city wall with her 4 loyal guards, looking down at the battlefield. Hey, I'm not seeing things, right? King Ku played with the jade handle in his hand and looked at King Yu. Have you given up? You want to fight against my Ku family army with just these 30 people? Look carefully, I have an army of 600 people here. So what? The beautiful King Yu was not afraid at all. 30 people are enough to deal with your motley crew. Sigh, King Yu, what should I say to you? Ku Wang sighed repeatedly. You're getting more and more stupid. How can 30 people fight against my elite troops? King Yu, Don't tell me you still think that I'm still the army from 100 years ago. So what if it isn't? You are destined to lose today. Haha, King Yu, you look beautiful. Why is your brain getting more and more muddled? I even defeated the strongest person in the vicinity, Song City. Why would I be afraid of you? You defeated Song? When did that happen? When King Yu heard this, his emotions finally became unstable and he was shocked. It happened last month. However, I've sent people to seal off all information that can flow to you. It's normal that you don't know. King Yu quickly turned his head and looked at the young mistress who was sitting on the city gate tower. However, the young mistress was also a little confused. It was rare for her to come out and she did not know much about these matters. Song City was the strongest vassal state in the vicinity. Even King Yu did not have the ability to defeat them. If you don't believe me, get King Song to come out and talk to you personally. As she spoke, a group of people suddenly walked out from the forest at the side. King Song, who was dressed in white, rode a huge horse and walked at the front. Behind him, 200-man teams followed. King Ku, I have yet to recover from the previous battle. This time, I can only bring 200-man teams. That's enough, King Song. King Ku laughed loudly. You are indeed trustworthy. King Song seemed to be unhappy and snorted coldly. King Yu finally frowned. This situation was very disadvantageous to her. King Ku was really scheming. He actually did such a big thing in the dark. Now that he was allied with King Song and wanted to attack her, would Li Dazhuang's 30+ men be able to stop them? Could it be that her fate has come to an end? However, King Yu has lost his mind today and only brought 30+ men. King Ku pointed, my 100-man team is enough to deal with all of you. Wang Xiao. Here. One of King Ku's centurions walked out. This king orders you to deal with King Yu's army. How long do you need? An incense's time is enough. As Wang Xiao spoke, he released his battle spirit. His battle spirit was 3 meters tall and it carried with it an aggressive momentum, carrying with it a fiendish aura. King Yu knew that Wang Xiao was King Ku's bravest general. His 100-man team was also made up of elites. 3 battalions, step out. With Wang Xiao's order, the 100 battle spirits immediately walked out and let out a loud roar. The aura of this 100-man team was completely different from King Yu's battalion. King Yu might not believe what Li Fan said a few days ago, but she was starting to believe it now. When did King Ku train such an army? Was this still the King Ku that she knew? Go, exterminate them. With King Ku's order, Wang Xiao's 100-man team immediately moved. These 100 elite soldiers looked at Li Fan's group like they were looking at prey as they roared and rushed over. Everyone, don't worry. Li Fan was very calm. His 6-man team stood at the front and watched as the enemy's fierce generals pounced over, waiting for them to gradually approach. The soldiers behind him were a little nervous. The black-armored battle spirit stood there and clenched the spear and shield in his hand. Everyone, listen to my command. When the enemy was about 10 meters away from him, Li Fan suddenly gave the order. Bird wings. Yes. The 6 teams suddenly dispersed. Li Fan led a team with a birdwing flag on his back and faced the 100-man team head-on. There were 4 pairs that split into 2 rows and spread out from both sides like a bird's wings, attacking the enemy's formation from the side. Kill them all. Wang Xiao did not place these people in his eyes at all. He led the 100-man team and prepared to wipe out the 30+ people in front of him to establish his prestige. Close combat. Wang Xiao was suddenly dumbfounded. The enemy was not as weak as he thought and did not seem like prey. He watched as the 2 teams of black-armored battle spirits charged into his camp under the protection of their shield. Pu. Their spears stabbed continuously. Under Li Fan's training, these soldiers had changed from their usual open spear techniques to stabbing. Their spears stabbed forward cleanly and quickly, reaping the lives of King Ku's soldiers. Although King Ku's 3 battalions were very fierce, they could not do anything against Li Fan's 2 teams. Then, the enemy's people charged in from both sides, turning the 100-man team's formation into a mess. In the blink of an eye, Nearly half of the 100-man team had been assassinated. Chapter 1697. The harvest continued. The 6 small teams were like daggers stabbing into the neck of a bull. This ferocious bull struggled and screamed in pain, but it could only continue to lose its strength. Suppress them. King Ku felt that something was wrong when he saw this scene. He did not dare to be careless. He waved his flag and gave the order. The remaining 500 people immediately swarmed forward, wanting to encircle and annihilate Li Fan's group of 30 people. King Song, bring your 200-man teams forward as well. I will use my true strength to crush them. Let them feel despair. King Song did not dare to object to King Ku's request. He brought his 200-man teams forward as well, intending to wipe out Li Fan. But what kind of person was Li Fan? He had already expected such a large-scale encirclement. Tortoise. Li Fan immediately changed to a large flag with a tortoise on it and carried it on his back. Seeing the big flag, the 2 flanks immediately returned and surrounded Li Fan and the rest. The 6 small teams formed a hexagon and shrunk in the middle of the army. Their shields were connected to each other, encircling everyone. This was the Sparta shield formation. Li Fan felt that this formation was simple, effective, and violent. Soon, Li Fan and his men were like a lone boat in the middle of the sea, surrounded by layers of people. However, these soldiers were faced with large shields that blocked their scimitars and footstep. Kill. Li Fan gave the order. The shields opened up some space for Li Fan and his men. 12 spears pierced out from the gaps of the shields like the quills of a hedgehog. But they accurately pierced into the throats of the war spirit. Pu. King Nemesis soldiers fell one after another. Seeing the Yu soldiers that he could not even bite, King Ku started to panic. Damn it! Why can't we kill them with just these few people? King Ku roared continuously. He could feel the anger burning in his heart. The 30 over people were like fish bones stuck in his throat. He could not swallow them down, nor could he spit them out. He could only feel the pain and anger. King Yu. Since when did she train such a subordinate? Yes, it was that man, the man who defeated his subordinate last time. It was all because of him that she was forced to suffer such treatment. Damn it. This kind of scoundrel should be punished with the most merciless and cruel punishment of having his body and soul destroyed. This Deputy General Li is quite interesting. The eldest miss sat on top of the city wall, watching the scene below. Close to 1,000 war spirits army couldn't eat up King Yu's small 36 people. Furthermore, it had only been 3 days, yet he was able to cultivate such a fighting style. He was indeed a talent. Soon, at least 100 more people died under the tortoise formation. Li Fan and the others remained calm, maintaining their strength as they waited for more prey to come knocking on their door. As for the army that was supposed to be the hunters that countered the king, now everyone was in danger. They didn't dare to approach Li Fan's tortoise formation at all, leaving a 2-meter wide vacuum zone for Li Fan and the others. Wyvern. Li Fan suddenly changed to another flag, and the tortoise formation suddenly spread out. At the front was Li Fan, a centurion, and a decurion in a group of 3. At the back was a group of 4. 2 people on either side held up shields, while the other 2 held spears from within. Under Li Fan's lead, this long line of soldiers instantly plunged into the enemy's formation, tearing King Yu's troops apart once again. Although the enemy were all elites, as long as they could intercept Li Fan's vanguard, they could completely lock down the 36 people in the Wyvern formation and then kill them. However, Li Fan's attacking ability was too strong. In front of him, no one could withstand a single blow. Therefore, he easily led the people behind him through the enemy's formation without feeling the slightest hindrance. Pu. Li Fan's spear had killed countless war spirits. King Yu already bore a deep grudge against him. I must kill him, I must. King Yu had never hated a person so much. Now that he saw Li Fan, his eyes turned red. Mu Yuan. This general is here. A strong man wearing white armor walked out and knelt before King Yu. Lead your 50 cavalry and kill that bastard for me. Understood. The man immediately released his war spirit and jumped onto his warhorse, roaring at his subordinates. "Soldiers! Follow me into battle and kill the enemy." Roar! 50 white-armored war spirits wielded scimitars as they spurred their warhorses and charged towards the crowd. "Stop them." Yes. When the beautiful Queen Yu saw that King Yu had ordered the cavalry to attack, she did not hesitate and gave the order to her cavalry captain. The cavalry captain wore beautiful black armor. He led his 20 cavalry and intercepted King Yu's 50 cavalry midway. The cavalry of both sides ran very quickly. As they stepped on the ground, they kicked up a cloud of dust. The two groups of cavalry quickly met on the road. These cavalry all had red eyes as they charged at each other. King Yu's cavalry captain was originally very arrogant. He had never placed anyone in his eyes. Even Li Dazhuang, who had displayed miraculous battle strength on the battlefield, was nothing to him. Only a knight was righteous. Furthermore, it was a pure bloodline knight like him. He was not like those half-baked trash like King Yu, who knew that the moment they fought, he would be dumbfounded. King Yu's cavalry seemed to have taken a strong medicine as they brandished their sabers and charged forward. They were like the wind as they cut through the cavalry. In just an instant, more than 10 cavalry on his side had been cut down. As for King Yu's cavalry, only 3 of them had been stabbed down by their spears. With only 6 cavalry left, the cavalry captain was deceived and did not dare to chase. He dejectedly fled back to the beautiful Queen Yu's side. "Trash!" Queen Yu angrily reprimanded, "You still have the face to come back." "Ruler, it's because we have too few people," the cavalry captain tried to explain. King Yu immediately pointed at Li Fan, who was crazily killing in the crowd. The cavalry captain understood what King Yu meant and did not dare to say anything. 36 people killing 800 people was not a small number. They were 20 against 50 and had been beaten into a dog state. How could they still have the face to explain? "Get out of the way!" King Yu's cavalry captain, Mu Yuan, roared at the army. The soldiers of the army scattered and opened up a path for their cavalry to kill. Looking at the approaching cavalry, Li Fan's expression did not change. "Wall!" Li Fan changed the flag once again. Following that, all the soldiers immediately lined up and stood on Li Fan's left and right. Then they smashed their shields on the ground and leaned against the back of the shields. Their great spears extended through the gaps of the shields and formed a spear formation. Seeing the sharp spears in front of them, it was like a barricade. When the tall horses of Sky Beyond Heaven saw this, they all subconsciously wanted to stop. Chapter 1698. But there is no turning back. These war horses are running so fast, how can they stop just because they want to? The war horses in front stumble and crash into Li Fan's shield wall and are skewered by the spear. The cavalry immediately falls down and is also pierced by the spear. The war horses in the back crash into the war horses in front and it is a mess. The 40-strong cavalry group immediately falls apart. As for Li Fan and the others, they directly stepped forward and stabbed all the cavalry that had fallen to the ground to death. Not only is the cavalry group destroyed, many of the heaven horses are also heavily injured. Ku Wang is so distressed that he almost fainted. This king's cavalry group are. This time, at least 20 heaven horses have died tragically. His cavalry group has lost nearly half of its strength. What should he do? Li Dazhuang. This king wants your life. With that, Ku Wang takes a bow and arrow from the side and aims at Li Fan's camp. Bang! This arrow seems to have the power to shoot the sun. In a blink of an eye, it is already in front of Li Fan's camp. But King Yu suddenly appears and raises his spear to block Ku Wang's arrow. Ku Wang, are you crazy? The beautiful King Yu questions. Unless it is the decision of the Elders' Council, no one is allowed to execute the people of Sky Beyond Sky. You actually dare to ignore the rules of Sky Beyond Sky. You are too daring. Ku Wang knows that he has missed the chance to kill that brat. He throws away the bow and arrow fiercely and clenches his fist tightly. The jade handle in his hand is also crushed by him. Ku Wang, do you know your mistake? Big Miss suddenly speaks. When Ku Wang hears this, He is startled. Even Big Miss wants to punish me? I heard that Big Miss has a good relationship with King Yu. They are indeed on the same side. That's right, Big Miss is definitely supporting this war. Otherwise, how could they be able to defeat me so easily? Big Miss, this king was just a little impulsive. Ku Wang says arrogantly, Big Miss will not punish me for this kind of thing, right? After all, this king is Elder Ren's son. There are 8 elders in the council and Ku Wang is a blood relative of one of them. 4 grandmasters who had lost their fertility, blood relatives were extremely important. King Ku was backed by the Elders Guild, and Elder Ren doted on him a lot. Li Fan, who had stopped fighting, heard their conversation and began to speculate the identity of the eldest miss. The imperial family. This woman must be the supreme existence in the realm beyond Avalon, the royal family. According to the information he had gathered about the realm beyond Avalon, the imperial family was the descendant of the person who had brought the entire realm beyond Avalon here. However, the big shot was already in a deep slumber, so the authority of his descendants was naturally not that important. The 8 elders were in control of everything. Even if the emperor wanted to make a decision, he had to first get the agreement of the elders. From the looks of it, the conflict between the royal family and the council of elders was not small. Li Fan suddenly had an idea. Let's not talk about the punishment for now. The eldest miss stood up and looked down at King Ku. However, you have lost this battle. Really? King Ku pointed at his remaining 400 men and the 100 left by King Song. I still have 500 men. I have not lost. I just don't want to fight anymore. The esteemed King Ku is truly shameless. The beautiful King Yu looked at King Ku coldly. Since it's like this, why don't we finish fighting and see who wins? I don't want to fight anymore. Retreat. King Ku suppressed the anger in his heart. It was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. He could endure for 100 years and he could endure for even longer. King Ku waved his hand and the soldiers under him immediately dispersed their battle spirits. If they did not activate their battle spirits, King Yu would not be able to get Li Fan to fight. He could only watch as King Ku swaggered away. My lord, are we going to let King Ku off just like that? Li Fan retracted his battle spirit and lifted the curtains of the camp. He walked to King Yu's side and asked, Forget it. We still won after all. Although King Yu felt slightly regretful, King Ku's background was too great. Even the eldest miss could not do anything to him, let alone her. This victory will only serve to intimidate King Ku. Li Fan said, I'm afraid it won't be long before he makes a comeback and continues to provoke our Yu city. With me here, he won't dare to do anything. The beautiful King Yu seemed to have regained her confidence. She lightly patted Li Fan's shoulder. And there's still you, right? This Deputy General Li is quite interesting. Big sister King Yu, why don't you lend him to me for a while? The eldest Miss's sudden words caused King Yu to be stunned. Big sister King Yu, could it be that you are reluctant? The eldest Miss's big eyes looked at King Yu as if she could see through his heart. That's not it. However, there is currently no one in my Yu City army. I still want him to take charge of the army and reorganize it. That's not a problem. I can let half of the Dragon Tiger cavalry stay with you temporarily. Ah, really? Hearing that, King Yu was overjoyed. Sky Beyond Heaven had raised saint beasts in the past. This Dragon Tiger cavalry was a hybrid between a dragon and a tiger. Later on, it was tamed into a mount. The Dragon Tiger cavalry was too powerful. A single Dragon Tiger cavalry could fight against 20 ordinary cavalry troops. Therefore, this Dragon Tiger cavalry was in the hands of the royal family. The feudal vassals below did not have the qualifications to possess it. If the royal family were to find out who secretly nurtured the Dragon Tiger cavalry, it would be equivalent to treason. As the eldest princess of the royal bloodline, the eldest miss also had a Dragon Tiger cavalry in her hands. Although there were only 20 of them, it was still a terrifying number. Leaving half of them, 10 Dragon Tiger cavalry would be able to sweep through the surrounding countries. She really did not expect that one Li Dazhuang could be exchanged for 10 Dragon Tiger cavalry. King Yu subconsciously felt that he had made a profit. However, she was not a fool after all. After thinking about it for a bit, she felt that she had suffered too much. Although 1 Dragon Tiger cavalry could fight against 20 ordinary cavalry, 10 Dragon Tiger cavalry could fight against 200 ordinary cavalry. But 1 Li Dazhuang, he could use 30 people to fight against 800 people. And it was a complete victory. Li Dazhuang's value seemed to be even higher and there was more room for excavation. Furthermore, Li Dazhuang was very loyal to her. No matter how powerful the Dragon Tiger cavalry was, they would only stay here temporarily. They still had to listen to the eldest miss. There is no need for you to hesitate. I am only borrowing him. The eldest miss smiled and said, when did you become so stingy? All right, since the eldest miss needs him, he should sacrifice his life for the eldest miss. With that, King Yu turned around and looked at Li Fan with a complicated expression. He then pulled out a scarlet spear from his back and handed it to Li Fan. Li Dazhuang, this spear is the cinnabar flowing fire that I carry with me. Today, I will temporarily hand it over to you for safekeeping. Use it to protect the eldest miss. Chapter 1699. King Yu said that you are very smart. Then you should have guessed my identity. In the middle of the night, the young miss sat in her room and asked Li Fan, who was half kneeling in front of her. I can only guess that you are of the royal family. Li Fan did not dare to make a wild guess, but he was certain that she was from the royal family. From the attitude of King Yu and King Ku towards her, she was definitely from the royal family. Otherwise, if any random cat or dog came over, King Yu and King Ku would not even put her in their eyes. That's right, I am the first princess of the royal family, Qiu Ya. The young miss's voice was filled with pride. However, people only know about the marquis and king, but not the royal family. After all, the royal family has not moved for a long time. Li Fan looked at the young miss. Since King Yu has ordered me, I will protect the young miss. You helped me because of the king of you, right? The young miss seemed to be a little unhappy, as if she was a little jealous. Yes. However, Li Fan showed a loyal and devoted look. I am King Yu's man in life, and I am King Yu's ghost in death. The more loyal Li Fan was, the more interested this Princess Qiu Ya was in him. If you are like this, how would I dare to ask you to do anything? Young miss, please instruct me. Since King Yu has instructed me, even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will do it. Really? Qiu Ya smiled sweetly, but Li Fan did not feel that this smile was very beautiful. On the contrary, he felt a hint of conspiracy in that smile. This first princess looked very pure, but her inner world was definitely not simple. He had to be careful when working with her. I am willing to sacrifice my life for you. Li Fan knelt down to express his loyalty. Qiu Ya sized him up for a while and said, if I want you to kill someone, would you dare? Kill who? Li Fan did not answer directly but asked. King Ku. Li Fan's heart skipped a beat as he subconsciously guessed that his thoughts had been seen through. That's not right. Although this Qiu Ya's strength isn't bad, she doesn't know any mind-reading techniques. How could she know what I'm thinking? Originally, Li Fan planned to secretly become the Nemesis King, so that all the suspicion would fall on the royal family. The Council of Elders had always been at odds with the royal family. If that happened, the two sides would definitely go to war. At that time, the realm beyond Avalon would be in chaos, and he would be able to fish in troubled waters, dragging the entire realm beyond Avalon into the quagmire of war and destruction. However, now that Qiu Ya had taken the initiative to make such a request, something was not right. Li Fan did not reply. What, you don't dare? I just don't understand. I'm just a small soldier. In terms of martial arts, you should have someone stronger by your side. My men will be sensed as soon as they approach King Ku's mansion. Qiu Ya gently played with the ring on her finger. It was a jade ring with an exquisite cheline carved on it. They have special equipment that targets the royal family, so my people can't go. I see. I understand now. Li Fan nodded. Then leave it to me. This is a mission that has a slim chance of survival. Qiu Yue did not know if she was doing it for Li Fan's sake or if she was pretending to be close to Li Fan. She warned Li Fan. If you don't succeed, King Ku will definitely execute you. If you succeed and are caught, you will be executed on the spot. I've already made up my mind, Missy. There was no fear in Li Fan's eyes. You're not afraid of death. I'm not. Why? Because I've lived for too long. Qiu Yue pondered for a moment at Li Fan's words. It's not a problem to live for too long. Qiu Yue continued. The key is to live happily. The problem now is that father is going to abdicate. Oh. When Li Fan heard this, he roughly understood why the princess was in such a hurry to act. The emperor of the realm beyond Avalon was also very bold. Why would he abdicate for no reason? However, this abdication was beneficial to him. For now, the more chaotic the situation in the realm beyond Avalon, the better. But what did Qiu Yue mean by assassinating King Ku? Li Fan's mind spun rapidly. In this fight for the throne, Qiu Yue should only be one of the candidates. There were 49 vassal states and every one of them wanted more power. What should they do? There was probably only one way, and that was to rely on one of the successors and support him to become the emperor. The realm beyond Avalon was too small. It was such a small place, yet it was divided into 49 vassal states. In comparison, the vassal states were already dissatisfied. If they were satisfied, they wouldn't be fighting so often. King Ku should be one of the supporters of Qiu Yue's opponent. Otherwise, with King Ku's power that had been suppressed by King Yu for so long, how could he nurture such a strong elite army? However, would Qiu Yue benefit from killing King Ku? Probably not. With Qiu Yue's intelligence, she should not be the direct beneficiary of King Ku's death. However, Ku Wang should be the main force behind someone's actions. Killing Ku Wang would not only weaken this person, but it would also frame the other person. It was a plan to kill two birds with one stone. If his guess was right, then Qiu Yue would be a terrifying opponent. After spending so much time with Lin Yuhin, Liu Zhu, and by Lin Luo, Li Fan felt that his intelligence was starting to increase. You must succeed in this mission. Qiu Yue instructed Li Fan, I will arrange for you to get close to King Ku. I will listen to Missy's arrangements. Anyway, it was something he wanted to do. Now that he had Qiu Yue's support, it was not a bad thing. However, Qiu Yue seemed to care so much about him, but after she was done with him, even if King Ku's people did not kill him, she would send people to kill him. He had to think of a way to tie the interests of both of them together. King Yu was only a chess piece in the game of power. In comparison, Qiu Yue was the real player in this game of power. He had to hold on to Qiu Yue's thigh tightly to climb to the top and complete his plan. All right, it's getting late. Rest early today. Ah Fu, bring him to his room. Yes, Missy. A middle-aged butler stood there with his head lowered respectfully. Please follow me. As Ah Fu spoke, he bowed to Missy before leading Li Fan out of the door. As they walked through the corridor, Ah Fu only showed the back of his head to Li Fan. You were too rude just now. Ah Fu suddenly spoke. His voice was filled with mockery. In the end, you are still a lowly person. You don't even know how to be polite. In the future, you are not allowed to question Missy's words. Missy's orders must be executed. Furthermore, when speaking to Missy, with your status, you must kneel. What if I don't do it? Li Fan smiled faintly. Chapter 1700. What a rude person. Butler Ah Fu doesn't know what to do with Li Fan, but he is not stingy in offering his ridicule. I really should find someone to give you a good lesson on etiquette. Do you think you know etiquette? Li Fan asks. Of course. Ah Fu stops and turns around. Looking at Li Fan, he proudly puffs out his chest. I have served the royal family for more than 700 years. I am proficient in royal etiquette and have never made a single mistake. Oh, is that so? Li Fan asks, then did the royal etiquette you learned tell you how to treat the princess's guest official? Ah Fu is choked by Li Fan's words. Indeed, although he doesn't like Li Fan, Li Fan's current identity is indeed the princess's guest. Also, remember, I am now the princess's death warrior, participating in a mission with a slim chance of survival. Li Fan suddenly stretches out his hand and grabs Ah Fu's collar. I am going to throw away my life. There is no harm in killing a nagging butler like you. So, sorry. Ah Fu looks at Li Fan's fierce gaze as cold sweat drips down his forehead. He suddenly remembers that King Yu and the princess said that this Li Dazhuang was born in a remote and desolate village and has the aura of a ruffian. It was precisely because he had such a personality that he was able to train a unique army and defeat King Ku's army by taking an unconventional approach. The princess also takes a fancy to this characteristic of his. Therefore, it is better for him not to provoke this guy. Sir, here is your room. Ah Fu becomes very obedient and quiet. He leads Li Fan to the front of the room. Call me if you need anything. Li Fan enters the room and finally lets out a long sigh of relief. Damn it, this trip to the realm beyond heavens was really torturous. Although it is a bit troublesome, everything is going according to plan. After entering the realm beyond heaven, he felt that the waters here were deeper than he had imagined. The old emperor wanted to abdicate his throne. The seemingly peaceful realm beyond Avalon was already surging with undercurrents. He had achieved a small step toward his goal. As for Wu Huang, he didn't know how he was doing. Was the emperor of the pugilistic world, who used to be so awesome, doing well as a dog of the realm beyond heaven? At this moment, the martial emperor was standing in the hall where the Elders Association was located. The hall was 10 meters high and very bright. Sunlight shone in through the windows above and fell on the 8 statues in the room. The 8 statues symbolized the 8 elders of the realm beyond heaven. Each group was 8 meters tall and had different expressions. However, all of them exuded a sense of majesty. Even the martial emperors, who were used to seeing great storms and boasted of being extraordinary, felt their bodies tremble. My goodness, these grandmasters sure know how to act tough. I really need to learn from them. Spokesperson Liao Ju, kneel down. The eyes of the statue at the very front suddenly emitted a golden light, as if it was staring at the martial emperor. At the same time, the eyes of the remaining 7 statues lit up. An unprecedented sense of pressure was exerted on the martial emperor's body. The martial emperor's body swayed slightly. He used his immortal energy to resist this terrifying pressure. 8 celestial immortals. 8 old monsters. Sure enough, their strength wasn't baseless. Just by attaching their mental energy onto the statues, they already had such shocking power. The martial monarch also understood that these fellows also wanted to take him down a notch. I am the noble martial emperor, why would I be afraid of them? When I learn the complete true immortal technique and reach the sky immortal realm, I will eliminate all of these people who have offended my dignity. Kneel. Another roar. The martial emperor gritted his teeth. Only those who suffer the most hardship can rise above others. Back then, Han Xin had also suffered humiliation. Today's humiliation, he would remember it and seek revenge in the future. Thinking of this, the martial emperor put down his precious pride and knelt before the statue in front of him. The other party seemed to be a little satisfied. Elder Ren, this subordinate did not do his job well. I had no choice but to return to sky beyond heaven and seek the help of the elders. You knelt beside the martial emperor, his face filled with fear and trepidation. I understand. Elder Ren's voice was filled with vicissitudes. This cannot be blamed on you. That Li Fan's potential has indeed exceeded our expectations. How many times have I told you, don't underestimate the Shongfang sword? Another elder shouted through the cold statue in a flustered and exasperated manner. I have reminded you so many times but no one took it to heart. All right, it's no big deal. Elder Ren said, even if he is strong, he is still a human. Shongfang sword. The martial emperor could not help but feel a little strange. Didn't this group of people come to fight against the holy beasts? Why are they related to sky beyond heaven? Since you are working for us, there is no harm in telling you. As Elder Ren spoke, the golden light in his eyes landed on Yu's body. When we, sky beyond heaven, came to this world, It was probably the time when humans fought against the holy beasts. At that time, we were the gods of humans. We have brought civilization and knowledge to mankind. However, humans actually shamelessly betrayed us. They joined hands with the holy beasts and instigated our and the humans' descendants to rebel, driving us from earth to sky beyond heaven. But before we left, we dealt a heavy blow to them. All of our descendants with our bloodline died, and after the war ended, humans became enemies with the holy beasts. Humans, this kind of lowly creature, is synonymous with evil. We, the Heaven Immortals, once had a total of 108. The elder with a bad temper roared, "It is because of that first generation's Shangfang sword that he killed the rest of us." Killed 100 Heaven Immortals? The martial emperor was a little shocked. Holy shit, the Shangfang sword back then was actually this powerful? Of course, it was not done by him alone. The elder continued, he used the power of the 4 holy beasts to forge the Shangfang sword, a godly weapon used to slay gods. At the same time, he instigated our descendants to rebel and started this war against us. Even so, this Shangfang sword still shocked the martial monarch. He had always thought that he was the strongest expert among the humans. He did not expect that other than Li Fan, there was actually such an awesome guy. Since he can do it, I can definitely do it too. The martial emperor made up his mind that he must learn the complete true immortal technique. Liao Ju, we had an agreement, but just based on the agreement, I cannot teach you the complete true immortal technique. Elder Ren's words made the martial emperor's heart skip a beat. However, according to his words, it seems like there is still a chance for things to turn around. However, you can sign a soul contract with us and the true immortal technique will be yours. Chapter 1701. It was as if a bait was placed in front of him, but underneath the bait was a dangerous trap. The martial emperor was not an idiot. Naturally, he would not foolishly step into this trap. Respected elders, may I ask, what kind of contract is it? It can be considered a guarantee. Elder Ren said, as long as you abide by our contract, you can enjoy everything that you can. But if you violate the contract, then your body and soul will be destroyed. The martial emperor muttered in his heart. Why are these people from sky beyond sky so worried about me? It seems like the betrayal of the humans is still fresh in their minds. In other words, they are actually very afraid of me. In other words, our previous agreement will become a contract and then use my soul as a guarantee? The martial emperor asked. That's right. You will use your soul and we will use the true immortal technique. As long as you do not betray us, you will not be affected. Elder Ren confirmed the martial emperor's thoughts. Of course, you must also display your value. We do not wish to pass this technique to a trash. Seeing that you have lost to Li Fan a few times, we are indeed beginning to doubt your potential. My potential is not a problem. As long as I learn the complete true immortal technique, I will definitely be able to defeat Li Fan. I will help you get rid of all the humans. The 1 million people that you want can stay. Elder Ren continued, then, let's sign the contract. As he spoke, Jade took out a piece of white jade. On it, there were some runes that even the martial emperor could not understand. As long as you drip your blood on it, our agreement will be considered complete. I do not understand the words on it. The martial emperor would not rashly sign this. What if it was a trap? Human, this is your only chance. Elder Ren reminded the martial emperor. Actually, he was a little unhappy. If not for the fact that he only had one representative, he would not even be bothered to speak to these lowly creatures. Don't worry. We, the people from sky beyond sky, speak our mind. We are different from humans. Jade had followed the martial emperor for so long. Naturally, she understood him. Knowing that he was a suspicious person, she comforted him. All right. The martial emperor understood. Jade was actually telling him that he did not have a second choice. Obtain the true immortal technique first. The martial emperor made up his mind. He bit his finger and smeared his blood on the white jade. The white jade emitted a white light and slowly floated into the air, spinning in front of Elder Wren. "This jade pendant is proof," Elder Wren said. "As long as you keep your promise, your wish will be fulfilled." "I hope so." The martial emperor felt slightly sad. He had actually fallen to such a state, and even his freedom was in the hands of others. The humiliation he had suffered today would be returned tenfold in the future. "I'm going to rest." "You, give him the complete true immortal art. Also, give him the Beast King armor as well." "Yes." You nodded, bid farewell to the elders respectfully, and then led the martial monarch out. "You were too rude just now." You could not help but scold the martial monarch. Fortunately, the elders are magnanimous and did not lower themselves to your level. Otherwise, for the sake of your so-called dignity, you almost lost your only chance. The martial emperor didn't say anything. He was indeed too arrogant just now. But he had always been like this. It was just that now that he was forced to lower his head, his heart was filled with unwillingness. Li Fan had almost completely defeated him in the Vermilion Bird Pagoda. This was what the martial monarch couldn't accept. "What is the Beast King armor?" "That is the trump card of our sky beyond sky. When our great immortal sovereign was asleep, one of his immortal pets had passed away. You explained, our sky beyond sky people used its immortal bones to forge this Beast King armor. After wearing it, it can double the user's combat power." "Only double?" The martial monarch was a little unsatisfied. "Li Family Island's immortal sovereign armor can increase by 10 times. Fuck, you have the nerve to call this a trump card treasure? Cough cough. In short, this armor is very strong. Moreover, it is easy to wear and there are no side effects. You seem to have thought of the heaven-defying immortal sovereign armor." He coughed twice and continued, "This is a gift from the elders. Think about it, you can carry this armor with you at any time. And Li Fan's immortal sovereign title, can you carry it by your side every day and night?" "All right." What you said seemed to make some sense. Only then did the martial monarch reveal a happy expression. Finally, there was something to be happy about. "Follow me. What you will see next is the universe's greatest miracle." With that, you brought the martial monarch through a long corridor and down 2 flights of stairs. They arrived at the bottom of the Elders Guild's palace. The martial monarch saw a huge tomb. This tomb was even bigger than the one that he lived in back then. Furthermore, it was extremely luxurious. It was no longer just a tomb. Instead, it looked like an immortal's tomb. Just the army that was carved out of stone in this tomb should be at least tens of thousands of people, right? These are not stone sculptures. You pointed at these lifelike stone statues of soldiers and said, "These are the people who were buried here." "Forced?" "No, voluntarily." Yu's face was also filled with excitement. "The one sleeping here is the greatest immortal sovereign. To be buried with him, what an honor." "Then why don't you go?" The martial monarch glanced at Yu. "Of course I want to." Yu was very regretful, but not everyone has the qualifications to enter this tomb. There were qualifications to be buried with him. It seemed that the legendary Celestial Lord was pretty awesome. Sigh, if the immortal sovereign was still alive, how could we be so tied up? Yu sighed and continued to lead the martial monarch deeper into the tomb. In front of a tomb, the martial monarch's body suddenly trembled and he subconsciously stopped. That was because he could feel an enormous power rushing towards him in waves from the tomb chamber. It formed an invisible wall that blocked his footsteps, making him not dare to approach at all. The tomb itself was very grand. Just the tomb door was 10 meters tall. Beside the wooden door, there were 2 gigantic 10-meter-tall statues guarding it. The statues had dignified expressions and were glaring at him with uncontrollable anger. Under the feet of the statues were demons and monsters. It had the meaning of subduing demons and devils, causing people to feel fear. This is the place where the immortal sovereign is sleeping. You noticed that the martial monarch was sweating cold sweat and said proudly, "If an ordinary person were to approach, they would be shocked to death by the divine might." The martial monarch did not know what to say. He could only take 2 steps back to avoid this terrifying pressure. The further he got from the tomb, The more uneasy he felt in his heart slowly dissipated. How terrifying. Fortunately, this person died early on. The martial monarch could not help but sober up. We've arrived at the armor room. You suddenly stopped. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.